meeting. As always, please know that we are being broadcast live and digitally recorded. We will begin in open session. Is anybody here for open session that's here? That would be a no. Okay, so we'll move on. Item 2, announcements. What do you got, Lori?
Announcements. So dog licenses are due by March 31st. They can be paid in the town clerk's office Monday through Thursday. She's here Monday 2 to 8 and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 8 to 4. Or you can pay them online on our website. Keep Hubbardston Beautiful. Townwide cleanup is scheduled for April 20th from 8 to 12. They were accepting sponsorships. And it's just basically cleaning up the town. They'll have a dumpster down there at the rec field. And then now accepting Country Hen scholarship applications. Deadline to apply is April 30th. It's a $1,000 scholarship that they do every year. So if you have an application or questions, you can turn it in to me.
Do you know if there are any yet? Did you ask
No.
them? None. This
None
happened
yet.
last year too, until last minute.
None.
Okay, and we tried to get the word out and extension and all that sort of stuff, just trying to give away the money. Okay, item 3 is the town boundaries, which we're gonna skip over for now.
Yeah, is Mr. Langer here?
I didn't see him come in.
So that is, we asked, or Mr. Langer asked to do what is required by statute and survey our town boundaries, put together just a great presentation. So we wanted him to come in and present that to you and the town. So if he shows, great. If not, then we'll schedule him again.
He could be looking for a parking spot.
Oh, that's true.
I thought there was like 3 more when I came in, about 15 people have showed up, so it's,
So that's what that presentation is. We've been pushing it off because of other pressing issues. We just wanted to get it scheduled.
no,
It'd be
understand.
great to have all these people see his work.
Okay, so, next item is the fiscal year 20 to 24 Hubbardston Road Maintenance Plan.
So this is a longer presentation. We want to take this one first.
No, we can pass over that too. Oh, you tell
Well,
me.
I think there's probably people here for it.
Okay.
Or you can see what they're here for. Is it street or road, or is it the road acceptance
it's
plan?
both.
It's both.
Or both.
Yeah.
All right, we'll stay on
Yeah.
on schedule here, so.
Okay, just calling it up here.
I think that's
It is?
it. No.
Well-oiled machine we got here.
Sure is. So this road maintenance plan. So this, I have our esteemed DPW director Travis Brown here, myself, as well as other inputs from the town. So last year we presented this to you as a recommendation for the 2-year road plan, and based off feedback and best practice, we wanted to extend this out 5 years so residents could see what's coming, where their roads fit, where the resources being spent, and just create a more transparent process. So this is our recommendation, myself, the staff, and Travis to you as a board and the town on where our resources can go. And we'll start with that presentation. We talked about the purpose of this report. Most of the money for this comes from annual road funds called Chapter 90. It helps us do maintenance for 87 miles of town road. 80 miles of those are paved. So this year, Hubbardston will receive $355,135 in Chapter 90 money. That's if the state approves the $200 million that they said they will. Last year they went up to $300 million, and that gave us another $70,000. So I encourage residents to lobby their legislators to try and include that extra Chapter 90 money. It helps the town.
What are the early thoughts? Last year, from what I call, it was always sort of feeling like it was gonna get bumped up to 300, you know? Is there no, Travis? Not same feeling?
It'd be purely speculation on my part, but the focus this year is education. So that's gonna have to be settled first. The Chapter 70 and 71 money, and then the push will be towards the 90 money.
Okay.
So that's a decrease from last year, about 0.04%. Been pretty level. We get about this much money every year. Not that it's guaranteed, but we expect it. So this whole plan is built off getting that level of funding, or maybe even a little bit more every year. We've been committing to Chapter 90 for just road maintenance only in many towns. DPW directors will recommend using this for other things like purchasing equipment. So we tried to separate out capital, so we're focusing just on road maintenance in order to alleviate some of the problems we have.
And just to clarify, when we say road maintenance, we don't necessarily mean like sweeping the roads. We mean like what was just done on New Westminster in that area as well. So, you know, actual reconstruction of a road.
And
or
also
repaving.
line painting and crack sealing, which you'll see.
Yep.
So it costs a lot of money to mobilize the equipment in any construction project. So in a lot of times we're clustering projects. So although one road in the cluster might not be, say, the lowest priority road, we're doing that in order to save money. If the equipment had to jump around town to hit, say, in priority 10 to 1, it would be a lot more expensive. We'd be able to do less. So this plan also takes into account that clustering in order to save money and maximize our resources. So the majority of our road monies go towards our numbered routes and state funded and federal maintenance. So this year you'll start to see markers on Route 68 North. That's from just past the rec field to all the way to Gardner. It's a $4 million project that's scheduled to go and will happen, probably be finished in the spring to summer of 2020. So that'll look a lot like the project you see on the south side of the road of 68. The town center project, we're going on Wednesday, Travis and I, to advocate again for its inclusion on the TIP. Right now they have it in 2024, but the TIP is the Transportation Improvement Project list for the state. We're hoping to see that come sooner, but at a minimum, 2024, you'll see a $4.3 million project go in town to revamp the town center project.
So let me just add something to that real quick. When we say that we're going to try to get it done earlier than that or push for it, we're in a really good position for that because it's already designed. So a lot of other municipalities who join this TIP program have a project, but maybe it's not designed yet. So we're able to have that design in there and can be nimble in the event that somebody's not ready for something and can sort of boost up, which is actually what happened with Route 68 North, why we're getting it done so quickly in addition to Route 68 South.
So another big source of funding is STRAP grants. So STRAP grants allow small towns like ours to do larger projects. So you know 300, or you've heard me say 355,000 is how much we have to do for the year. STRAP grants can be anywhere from that level to $1 million. So we use these for our larger roads. Last year we tried to get a STRAP grant for Flag Road and surrounding areas. We asked for $1 million. Due to the way the governor's priorities were and the lieutenant governor's priorities, we didn't fit into their scheme because they're looking for high value economic development. And I'll be candid about it, it's an election year, so they want those high impact economic development type issues. So we were denied that STRAP grant. We have a call later this week to debrief us on why we were denied that so we can get better. We also engaged our town engineers to help us put in our next STRAP grant and focus on some of the new priorities of the state, because it used to be small towns would just ask for $1 million and they'd get that so that they could do roads in their towns. It looks to be changing and we want to understand why.
And we have gotten strap grants. We got a $1 million strap grant in 2013 and another $1 million strap grant in 2016. So you can only apply for one every 3 years. So we were up in 2019. But now we don't have to wait 3 years, right? We can apply again next year and the next year. Okay.
And those two went towards Old Westminster Road and Old Princeton Road.
One of them, and then the other one was
Yeah.
Hale Road, Fieldville, Grimes. We got a lot of roads.
Those were strapped grants?
Those were
all of
strap
them?
grants also,
Creatively combined with.
with a bond.
So we'll be targeting, or we'll be recommending that we target Lombard Road for a strap grant in this coming cycle. Lombard Road, because of its length, is probably a little bit more than $500,000, which would be, basically we would do with our Chapter 90, half of it 1 year, and then it would tie up almost 2 years of Chapter 90 fund and not allow any money anywhere else. So it's the type of candidate we're looking for in terms of an economic development boost. It connects the center of town to Princeton, so I'm getting that right, Princeton?
Yes.
I'm learning the area. So it's a good target. We're also looking at, in future submissions, New Templeton and Williamsville, so again, some of those bigger thoroughfares, but these aren't guaranteed, so we're just applying to try and get some bigger projects off the Chapter 90 plan. So this is just showing our biggest road projects right now going on 68. So if you look at the arrows, 1 is completed, 2 is the target for this coming year that is already scheduled and will be done, and then 3 represents the town center project. So what was completed was Rutland to Brigham Street, 2-inch mill and fill with curbs, drainage, and sidewalk. What I think most people believe would be a successful project. It'll look very similar to phase 2, which will start this fall. We'll see that all the way from the rec field to Gardner, the same level of comprehensive road repair. And then part 3 is what we're waiting for is that final placement on the tip, so that we can finish the town center reconstruction.
And just to add, so for the Route 68 South and Route 68 North, it's got to be, what, 5 years ago now, we got $1 million approved at town meeting for the engineering, because that's what you have to pay for. We've had to pay for the engineering for the town center project too. For them to give us 4.3 eventually, we've had to pay for the engineering. We've paid for and allocated at town meeting a couple of different times, and we're probably, 85% through. We have one more ask, and that'll come up, somewhere in the future here. But overall, that design is almost entirely paid for as well.
And that went a long way in discussions with the MPO, it's called, the group that decides where we get placed on the tip. The fact that Hubbardston's investing itself made a big difference. So a lot of towns will go and they'll say, this is our $4 million project, can you approve it? We're going with, we've already paid and we know what it looks like and we're done, can you approve this? It's a lot more powerful in application. So they were, when we gave our presentation, which is available on the town website, we emphasized that. And Jeff went with me, also members of the town center committee, so we could show that it's a local project that we care about and we want done.
And one other item I'm just going to add to that is, because we've paid for a certain percentage of the design and gotten to those, that means they've had to comment on it already, so they're familiar with the project, the ins and outs of it. They've had their own comments, like a little bit of emotional connection to the project, so that only helps our case.
So here you see Lombard Road, Williamsville Road, some of our strap targets. And then we get into Chapter 90 road maintenance. So this is what the road maintenance most people are familiar with in their neighborhoods, right? So now we're moving from numbered routes and long thoroughfares that connect towns to the roads that most people live on. So these are where we get the majority of our complaints, because in past years, maintenance has been deferred on these roads, and that's no surprise to anyone else. So we don't like patching roads either, and we don't like road complaints. We want to give everyone the best roads they can get. So we try and target with patches in many cases until we can get to the Chapter 90 road maintenance plan, which is the full fixes that you see, the type of fixes people want in their neighborhood. Again, just reminding people that these are grouped. So if you see a road that seems out of place, it's probably because it just fit into the financial puzzle. And certainly pose those questions and asks. But for every road that one person believes should be done, I promise you there's a bunch of people on another road that also want to get it done. So we're balancing the needs of the entire town with our ability to fund and the ability to cluster these projects. So this year you saw a similar cluster. So the main focus was New Westminster Road, and then because they were in the area and also needed to be done, Adams Road and Prentice Hill were completed. So that was last year's projects. Last year's plan identified the following plan, and we are recommending it again. And these are ready to go with approval. So Highbridge Road, Morgan Road, Underwood Road would all receive significant repair and reclamation, in addition to some crack sealing. So I've personally driven those roads many times, and it's without contestation that those are some of our worst roads and need to be completed. And this is a map of the areas that would be covered. And this plan will be sent out and obviously changed based off comments if necessary, but available for people to review. This is that project. You can see the connectivity and the connectivity to Garter Road, which matters for fund placement. There's some Morgan Road, High Bridge. So then proposed in FY21, so this is next summer. Because Flag Road was unsuccessful in the STRAP grant and was targeted for repair a long time ago, we'll be focusing heavily with patches this year. We did a big patch on Flag Road, Travis did, and his team. They sort of solved a lot of problems on that road, but still a lot of work to go, and we know that. So full Flag Road, it's a $200,000 project, but that's going to be recommended, along with Hale Road Extension and the piece of Williamsville Road that runs from Hale Road Extension to Mount Jefferson Road. The items in blue, our capital plan that we just finished identified additional funding from capital or free cash for additional monies. If additional monies were improved and we continue to meet some of our financial targets, we would also add to next year's plan Mount Jefferson Road, Williamsville to Flag, and then also a piece of Mount Jefferson from House 98 to the fire pond. So adding monies to existing mobilizations really allows us to expand our ability to repair roads. Here is that road network. So everything in green would be part of the primary plan, with blue being done with additional funds. Again, I just want to emphasize significant effort at Flag in this year, this summer, to make Flag Road passable. There's many spots of it that you can't even drive on. Well, you can, but not in my car. Here's some pictures of Flag Road, and then Williamsville Road is one of our main thoroughfares. So then, FY22, proposing some work on some important corridors that connect to the town center. So this would be Elm Street, fully done, Brigham Street from Main Street to the bridge, and then again Brigham Street, the rest of it from the bridge to New Westminster Road, and then some crack sealing. With additional funds, you could also add in Berry Road Cutoff, and Parsons Road. So here's that road network. And Berry Road would go all the way to Twin Hill, which would just make this map unreadable. Berry Road is shown on the left. I'm sorry, Brigham, Berry on the right. And then you have Berry Road Cutoff and Parsons Road.
Do you talk about complete streets later? Or?
I don't.
So just one other thing to add to this. It's a newish type of program, but it's called the Complete Streets Program, where towns can ask from anywhere to $200,000 to $400,000 for part of the Complete Streets Governor's program. And for example, we got one this year, and you saw that we rebuilt the sidewalk in front of the school down Elm Street. So in conjunction with all of this, annually we request to be have projects under the Complete Streets Program. As part of entering into the Complete Streets system, you have to make a list of like 30 town projects, which we worked with our engineer TEC to do that, to actually have, and you don't have to go in directly in order, but the idea is just to have a plan so that if you get the award for some amount of money between 200,000 and 400,000, you can just sort of pick which one to do it and just go from there. So it's in conjunction with all this road stuff that's happening as well. Sounded better the second time.
In FY23, proposing some continued work on Williamsville Road. Again, this is assuming we don't try and do a strap grant or move some of these up. We're talking a $230,000 project there from Cruise Road to the, I don't expect people to know pole number 149 unless you live there. It's a significant chunk. And then New Westminster Road, that's Mare Meadow to Brigham. So that would be that final piece of a very long stretch of road, New Westminster, and then Simon Hill would also be included there. With additional monies, you'd add Evergreen Road, which the bridge will be reconstructed using federal money, so this will tie into that project. And then also Ed Clark Road and quite a bit of crack sealing. Crack sealing is important as a maintenance to make sure these roads don't deteriorate so fast that we have to do them again a couple years later.
Hey Trav, when's the bridge going? Do you know?
It's this spring.
This spring, so we'll have to be obviously providing,
Right,
and the road will be closed.
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's part of the. They're not really.
It's detoured. Yeah, it will be
Detoured.
for about a year.
Okay.
So there's this long stretch of Williamsville Road shown here, and then New Westminster Road, and then Evergreen, Ed Clark, and Simon Hill. Here are some pictures of the damage. Hopefully the snow's gone soon. And then extending out to FY24, large road project that's needed at Thompson Road. It's $195,000 for the full road, and then Cruise Road. It's another big road requiring a big chunk of money. With additional monies from the capital plan, could also include Route Road and some crack sealing. So here's that loop. And then pictures of Thompson Road, Cruz Road. And then we're calling, I think this is a good time to talk about, so beyond 2024, so it is our intention and every energy will be given to getting the types of grants that will slide everything to the left. So projects would be moved if we were successful with strap grants from the years that they're placed in. We are hoping to get significant grants and to be successful showing how much planning we're doing in terms of road repair so that we can do that. So in the year beyond 2024, you would look at a full reclamation of Pitcherville Road, Birches Road, and Ragged Hill Road. I'll also say that we know how far 5 years is away, and if you look at the picture of Pitcherville Road, that's not passable right now. So we're waiting for the ground to thaw and planning on fixing that so it's passable in the stretches where it is. Birches Road, another example. There's house lots for sale down there. Pretty hard to get people interested when you have a big pothole, so we want to make sure that we can fix that. Also looking at a very small piece of Ragged Hill Road, Heldville, Cross, Bickford, Tahanto.
Where's
Am I saying that?
Toronto? That's down past Lombard, Adams, you go Bickford Pond.
I've seen it,
Just
but I
through
can't
roads,
say it.
yeah.
In Forest.
So Travis, why is Healdville on the plan when that was fully reconstructed back in 2013 and 14? What's going on there?
It's got some cracking, but it's not a reconstruction. It's a preventative maintenance course going over it.
Okay.
It's called the SAMI coat.
Is the sick culvert on 62, is that in the future?
It's hoping to be done next year. Well, start next year.
So we had I wouldn't call it a productive meeting, but we had a meeting about it. So the idea is the temporary solution is expensive to fix it. And the state is honestly not in favor of adding, say, steel plates in order to reinforce it. So their plan is to continue to monitor it and just hold on. So if we do have to close it, what they promised us, so close the entirety of it. The first step would be to close it down to 1 lane. But what they said is if they do close it, which would be the worst case scenario for us because that's a major route into town, that the amount of closure that would have been on the other end because of the bridge, they would shorten that up. So our closure time will be the same no matter what. So if we keep it open until the spring, if it survives when they're going to do it next spring, then it would be closed for a certain construction period. If they have to close it earlier, they'll shrink the construction window with the bidding, in theory, so that we're only closed for a certain amount of time. But it will need to be closed, pulling out 2 significant culverts there. Federal dollars are paying for that. That's the best type of dollars for us to use in town. So we're at their mercy there. We could not afford that. The temporary solution alone is $60,000 to $80,000. Never mind the multiple $1 million it'll cost to fix the bridge.
And if it does go down to 1 lane, which I feel like is an inevitability, just time frame wise, then there'll be a set of traffic lights likely set up on each one, the ones that are sort of solar driven, and you just gotta wait.
And so people know where that is, it's between Twin Hill and the 68 section of Route 62, where the river crosses 62.
So ongoing maintenance, so some additions that we're gonna try and make in the capital plan this year that'll be in front of town meeting is adding a roller. So we were able to rent a roller this year. It helped with some areas and some projects, so making some temporary solutions a little bit more permanent and palatable. Having our own roller would allow us to do that for the entirety of the season and make some of these patches that are done more effective, which is why we're asking for that. It also allowed us to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, Travis, but dirt road grading and working on dirt roads so they're more compacted and less likely to come apart. Obviously, we do pothole repair. We do try and respond to every single request we get. Our crew is fighting the winter the best they can and some issues. We don't know about them if they don't exist, so we don't mind. I know some people think they're complaining, but we do need to know what we need to know in order to fix them. And then crack sealing is preventative. It helps us to not have to do full reclamations of roads or extend their life out longer, because the more you have to do to road, obviously the more expensive it is, and we want to spend a little bit less money to make it last a lot longer. Then line painting is important for people like me who can't stay in the lines without it. Here's an example of crack sealing if people don't know what we're talking about. So those are those fun squiggly lines you see everywhere. When water gets into a road, it deteriorates faster, so the crack sealing keeps the water from getting into the base. Once it gets into the base, the road's gonna be junk soon, so you try and keep that going as long as you can. So that is the the recommended plan, based off what we believe is the most efficient use of very limited resources, and it does rely heavily on us committing capital monies. So that means we're trying to find ways to fund other things so that we can put more money into the roads. And this is solutions that would not include something like an override or an additional source of revenues to fix roads. This is what we're facing and what we've been asked to give. Travis, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, it just, on the plan, as he had shown, is just in the blue is how much extra we could do with that extra monies. And I think I did some math on what chapter 90, we lost almost a couple grand this year on chapter 90, so just based on $355,000 to do what we have to do to get all the roads, we're just over 15 years. So if you just rely on chapter 90 money, in the meantime of getting up to all them, all the ones that we got to are falling apart, so it's really something to think about.
So, Mr. Chairman, we have a few email submissions, and then I don't know how you want to progress.
Just gonna open it up to see if people wanna talk about it, so, are you, when you say that we have a few email submissions, saying that, to read them aloud?
Just people that couldn't make it that wanted to
Sure.
give you info.
You wanna do that?
So I don't know which way you want to go, but you want to read these first?
Yeah, go ahead. It'll give people ideas for questions.
Okay, from I'll try and represent these as best as possible while being efficient. So Sandaberry is talking about in 1999, before purchasing our property on Nestlewood Lane, they attended a meeting that said there was a 10-year road plan to pave all the remaining dirt roads in town. Some of them have been paved, like Halfrey and Birches. Those still remain dirt roads. 1998, there were 8 homes on Halfrey. It's a cul-de-sac. Today there are 30 homes with a wonderful mix of people. While the DPW does a great job, we'd appreciate the town's consideration for it to be paved. From Jesse Twarong, hope I'm Twarog. Twarog. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
We're gonna keep having you do it too.
I'll practice it tomorrow. Please add Thompson Road to the list of roads in repair. From Elaine Peterson, Lombard Road needs to be addressed. Many people use it to commute to work through 140 and Holden. From Sherry, I live on Dogwood Road North and have to express my frustration with this road. As anyone has the unfortunate task of driving down this road, you'd understand my frustration. The road is now unpaved and the potholes that you encounter when driving are damaging our cars. I implore you to look at this road and please make the decision to invest some money to make it drivable for the residents. Thank you for your time. This one said it was from me, but that's because I forwarded it. It's really from Veronica O'Malley on Pitcherville Road. I'd like to know when Pitcherville Road will be filled or repaired. It feels like it's becoming a big hole, so not able to drive on it without losing my tires. It's really bad from 44 to 60. I was told it could not be done because of the rain and snow we've had. Please do something. I have a new car and hate to have my shocks replaced. Glenn Gregory, did you come today?
Present.
Yeah,
Okay, I see you now. You want to just speak for yourself later?
I can, I'd love if you, well, can we throw up, the pictures I
There are
put on?
pictures on there, I put them under the drive attachment.
Just so we know what we're
comments.
talking about?
This one here I can pass to the board, and they're also in your folders.
That, what we're looking at there is,
Millings.
millings. So, again, Travis trying to work with a very, constrained budget, has been trying to find alternative solutions, and one of them was to lay down, millings over the pothole street, and this is the and I was behind Travis at the, initially, but seeing what we're looking at now, it really makes a sloppy mess out of the street. there's just that residue, you can't possibly wear those shoes back in the house after. I have a white dog, it doesn't look good.
Had.
So I would really like to discourage the use of millings in the future. I don't know if you have an opinion on that, Travis?
Millings aren't a permanent fix by any means. They have done very good on some roads in town.
Yeah.
Honestly, we put a lot of them on to get the water off the road. The roads that we added to them were like a bowl, so they were holding water. Water is the worst enemy for a road. So we had taken them. Honestly, we were sparingly on some roads because we got so many from the Worcester Road project. So
Yeah.
we're trying to make sure that other roads got them. The roads that we find that are, I guess, didn't hold together as good were later in the year, so they didn't have time to really bind. But I
Was that the
find
case, I'm sorry, was that the case with Dogwood North?
that was later in the year.
Yeah, 'cause I know you've been out there filling, again, before every snowfall, you've got the crew out there filling potholes
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, really, we have millings that cost the town nothing, to where you would get calls saying, why are you putting patch in there that pops out and then it's on the side of the road? And that cost us $115 a ton, so. It costs the town nothing, that doesn't hurt anything, which can be put back in reused. I mean, when it's on the side of the road, we had put them on roads that were gonna have to be reclaimed. So that would add to the base. A lot of our roads in town don't have a good base. So by adding these, and when we do get to them, to hold us over to that, it was meant for base and repair.
Do you
So
roll
I
the
was
millings?
Yes, when we rented the roller, we had rolled them and we had calcium.
So I was hoping you'd say it would not be reapplied on Dogwood North. Would you agree with that, or?
It's up to, I mean, we don't have any real fix. That part of Dogwood North that has all the potholes is where the water sits. And that's where the potholes were when there was tar there. So, we were thinking possibly of adding some to crown it, to get it to sit on the side of the road and get it off the center of the road, and we possibly wouldn't have the pothole situation.
And
we
what
had
we're
put it-
seeing there now is when I'm snow blowing the mouth of my driveway
that-
in front of the mailbox,
Right.
that's,
That
you're
right
still gonna
there-
have that.
Cause I have millings in my own driveway, and I see what you have there, but just a little, well, I guess, tech is that when you're snow blowing, is not to just snow blow them ahead of you and put them on the banking where the road is, that way it keeps them on the road. Don't blow them to your property and then have to worry about raking them off, cause I had to do the same my first go around with the driveway, and then learn to keep it on the driveway and on the bankings, and to keep them near it so you can put it back on the road. So, that will help there. Honestly, I was helping out the small plow that plows Geordie,
Yep.
cause we were falling behind. So my truck's bigger and heavier, so that scraped up a lot. And being that we don't have any freeze, if we actually had a freeze in the road, in the dirt roads, we wouldn't have all this stuff coming on. But it's been an up and down season for us, between ice and sleet, and nothing froze. So, we have this problem, unfortunately, and it was just the first year we put them down. But we also put them down on Old Colony Road, and where we have it crowned and everything like that, there's not one pothole, all through all the flooding that we had all summer long, and through the winter. And the only places we have it on Old Colony is on a flat spot where the water sits. And that happens on our dirts. We just dealt with it today, so it's, whether it's dirt or millings, wherever the water sits, we have an issue. So really, we're trying the best to do, and in the meantime, we might add a little more calcium to it to help it bind. But being that we're getting fine millings from the project, which is the best stuff to put down, compacting it is key. And that's what we don't have, and we rented it for the times when we did have it. So, I mean, we wouldn't put them back down again unless we had a roller to do it. And honestly, We're putting them back down on High Bridge right now because High Bridge is gonna get milled up and it's all going in the base. So wherever we have a pothole, you're gonna see them out there with millings because I want as much into the base as possible. And it doesn't cost the town anything, it's even better.
So Travis, was there any thought of, on the road plan of, or what was the thought of maybe not including Geordie, Dogwood area? There's a lot of homes on there, it does connect right to 68, granted it's not a thoroughfare, but that's in pretty bad shape up there with a lot of homes. So what was the rationale of, you know, not including something like that, one of the few neighborhoods in town versus some of the other ones?
And might add, I agree with you, there are 70 houses in that development, there's a lot of traffic over there.
And just to make it clear, like if Jordy goes on the list and somebody else comes off, we're gonna have them in here next week too. So that's, you know, so there is no good answer, but I'm interested to kind of think of what the rationale was. That is a big neighborhood.
Understandingly, it's nothing personal on anybody's,
No, and
anything here. What it comes down to is that we just honestly, acquired those developments about 10 years ago. So honestly, the roads that we've done right now, I've just been in waiting. It's nothing against that, but the developer, it's just so people understand, because they do call me and ask, but they only put down one base coat. They never put a top coat. I got drainage in there that is sticking up above pavement.
Hey, so we have a certain way that we're gonna go up, or it gets out of control. So you're gonna do what she's doing, and I'll recognize as the chair, and if we have to recognize a bunch of people in a row, we'll do that, but we're gonna stay organized, okay? Thank you. Trav, if you want to say more, you can say more, otherwise I'm gonna have Deb.
I mean, I'm going with what we had issues with ahead of time, so it's what it comes down to.
Okay, go ahead.
All right,
Hi.
just to give you a little history, Debbie Chamberlain, 7 Laurel Street. I built the house originally with the builder, and it was a dirt road. And we were assured and paid extra money for our location, and that road was paved with one base coat, which is what was required by the town at the time, and the bond was released. Subsequently, after many years and a big history, it was taken over by the town, and the school buses came down and the town started plowing. Lynn Gauthier, when he was DPW director, did a small portion because that top part of Dogwood North is so bad, and that is held up over time. He originally wanted to put a second layer on that at the time, but the town didn't want to spend the money because money's always tight for the roads anyway, so that never could happen, and now they are completely falling apart. And the top part of Dogwood North is very bad, but as you continue down Dogwood North, there's other sections that are just as impassable as the top, along with Jordan. The whole thing is falling apart. It's a lot of tax revenue generated in that neighborhood, and it's also a draw to this town. I've had many people move in and out over the years that have told us that they were just waiting for a house to open up there. And it's completely deteriorating the property value, along with making a mess. The first time I drove over it, right after I got out onto 68, my tire light went on. I went and got it repaired, and they pulled out the grindings and the millings out of my tire. And I've heard of other people complain about that. I have pictures of 2 of our vehicles that literally had snapped struts from it. You can't go more than 5 or 10 miles an hour. My husband has a work van. The shelves in his work van are literally pulling away from the wall. The other day, he wanted to take a video because the kids from high school get dropped off on 68 and have to walk home through this. And there was a car in front of him, and you literally just have to crawl. But because of the big potholes, the kids were getting splashed. There was nowhere for them to walk. They were on tippy toes. It's dangerous for bicycles, motorcycles. The other day, I have a beagle who's short to the ground. I had to bathe him because of the oil stuck in his armpits. I can't even walk the dog, and he stayed in the snowbanks the whole time. The culverts are getting all full, so the drainage is even worse. And what the biggest concern is that it's not even on the list or in future plans, and I'm not trying to negate from any of these other roads, but something needs to be done. It's dangerous. Somebody's gonna get hurt. It's causing lots of damage, And I would really appreciate if you could take another look at your plans and include some type of major repair, because it's literally almost impassable.
Yeah, I mean, what we can do too, I mean, this is not, I wanna be careful about how I say anything, right?
Set in stone.
Set in stone.
Set in asphalt.
It's not set in asphalt, right? But, so, there is the possibility, you know, when compelling cases are made and, you know, sound reasoning is coming out, that, you know, we have different types of funding that like we talked about there. Whereas in potentially, you know, out of this fiscal year 20 through 24 plan, maybe there's a project or set of clustered projects that was going to be paid through Chapter 90 that maybe we could include in a strap grant request instead, and then have the ability to sort of slide the money to another area of town. So I think, you know, we're new to this too, this setup, you know, but I think they did a great job presenting it to us clearly. But I think we just have to keep hearing things like that.
Can I just
yeah,
add
go ahead.
2 quick things? First, I would ask you really, really to consider not putting that back on the roads. Even when it was rolled, they made such tracks, it was like a washboard. We haven't been able to wash our cars since you put it down. It's really just doing damage. It has not been a fix for that road. Maybe it's worked well in others, and I understand, you know, trying to put something on it to try to keep it together, but that didn't work, and I really would hope that you wouldn't put more down. And also, I would ask, maybe if you can take a consensus of how many people from that neighborhood have joined us tonight, because I don't think I'm sitting alone. I think I have a lot of neighbors with me.
Raise your hand if you're a neighbor.
Probably more in the other room.
We do have some.
Okay.
Got some around the corner too.
Okay.
It's in bad shape,
I know.
and there's a lot of houses up there.
So we have more.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, from Christine Gerard, contacting you to inform the state of disrepair on High Street. I've been a resident for 35 years and don't recall this road ever being resurfaced. The highway department has been patching this road year after year in an attempt to make it passable. Once again, the department has recently attempted to fill the potholes, but it's so deteriorated that patch is not helpful at this point. There are many significant potholes that you must drive on the opposite side of the road to make it safe for oncoming vehicles. And then I will note that it's not an official platform to report to us, but we also have some residents of High Road that don't want it paved because they think people will drive too fast.
Right. We hear that a lot.
Matt and Nancy
Cloutier.
Cloutier, I'm French too, I should be able to get that. Though this is about the public safety building, that's a different topic. Same group, different topic. This one was about roads. Wider roads nowadays always get expensive asphalt or rolled resurfacing. Years ago, our roads were maintained with hot liquid asphalt spread over the road, then sand spread over it and cooled and hardened. This road lasts for years and then gets resurfaced the same way and held up always.
Isn't that illegal now?
Megan Grafton. As you work through each zone of the town, please consider the following. Ambulance and fire would need at least 10 extra minutes to get down Flag Road. If water management is not addressed, all this road work is useless and short-lived. Our trash company has skipped us so many times we've lost count. We realize other roads are in similar state, but driving up and down this road for 20 years, I've never seen it quite this poor. We can't avoid potholes. Our cars cost more to maintain no matter what you drive or how slow you go. Maybe touching base with the post office would help gather information. They would definitely know where safety issues might be the worst.
What road was that? I tuned out this.
Megan Grafton, Flag Road.
Oh yeah,
That one are attached to his.
Some of these are combined with the safety building discussion. This one says, living on High Street for 45 years, I've seen nothing but patchwork done. It's in terrible condition. Being so close to the center of town, it should be a high priority. If I may go off topic, there are houses, please do. There are houses on High Street that have been in the exterior remodeling phase for many years with no permits. Sorry, that's a different issue, but High Street. And then pictures. High Street.
Same one.
Yeah, all High Street. Okay, so it's
okay. Well,
and that's roads.
Okay,
From the public, we promised them that we'd read them.
yeah. No, I'm still open here. I mean, does anyone else want to say their piece or have any comments about any of this? Because this is the item at hand, whether in this room or in the back room. Please feel free to to raise your hand and you'll be
To your right.
allowed to speak.
Hi,
Yeah, go ahead.
Dave Coviello, 32 Dogwood Road North. I do want to just point out that none of us, I don't think, are blaming the DPW. Their guys are out there all the time working really hard. We just are looking for a solution.
Okay. Yes?
I just wanted to say thank you. I'm on Flag Road and I have to drive up and down it every day, multiple times a day, and it's just awful. So thank you there was a young man out there with a shovel and a truck the other day, trying his best. So please, thank you for not forgetting about us. And hopefully we'll make it the next
We
road.
appreciate the calls, quite honestly.
Carol Curtis, Flag Road, and I just wanna say the same thing, your crew has done a fantastic job this year, you really have, been good, should appreciate them.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes?
I live at the top of Mount Jeff, past the fire pond, on Jefferson Road, which is a dirt road. It's really terrible. You're fixing it all the time. So in this capital plan, where you're planning to stop at the fire pond, could you keep going and just do the end of the road? It's to Crossroad. It's really terrible.
That's actually part of it. The paper I have is more detailed, but there is that section from Mount Jeff to Cross Road, and then that piece across, it is in there.
It is.
Yeah.
So about 20,
I'd have to, I actually have it
2021 or
here.
something?
I can look
Okay.
into
Thank
it.
you very much.
But I totally understand, and there's a reason why that's paved, because if it wasn't paved, there wouldn't be a road there. It washes away on the side of the road now. We put riprap there to try to keep it, so we totally understand, and it is bad.
Okay, thanks.
It's real bad.
Yeah, 2021.
So another thing that is considered in this, and Travis has the counts, but is also traffic counts. So a lot of the stuff that we get from residents is very useful because we understand it. But another piece of information that we get is how many people drive on roads, etc. They don't do road counts on everyone's road. So if you believe your road is highly traveled and not represented in traffic counts, you should let us know so we can lobby to get them included. They're not going to do every road, and it's not necessarily a guarantee, but those traffic counts help. There's some roads in town that see over 3,000 cars a day, so even if they're not in a massive state of disrepair, so many people travel them that they do need attention. So that is also part of this plan, and a lot of the point of putting things in a plan is so that people can see and then comment on it, so that it doesn't seem like this arbitrary, God, I hope the town officials do something about the road. You can see what we're trying to do with the resources we have over a longer period of time, and then commit ourselves to it and be held accountable as well.
Anything else anyone want to say?
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
live
go
on
ahead.
15 Jory Lane. When 10 years ago, when Paul Hale was a selectman,
Yeah.
he said the town was getting ready to put us on the plan to start fixing our road. So obviously 10 years passed. There's been some patching. The grindings didn't work. We all agreed to that, but at this point in time, we're still not on the list. I'd like you to at least address the issue in a further meeting. Doesn't have to be tonight, but how are you gonna fix the road before 2030? That's what it looks like to me. It's not safe. Our cars are getting damaged. You've heard this all the way through. The kids have stopped riding the bikes on the roads.
Can you give your contact information?
It's not safe.
I promise you we'll give you that answer.
Okay.
It's not something we could definitely just
I
change
don't
everything around
expect it
tonight.
now, but so 10 years ago I heard this, so.
So that's why we're here tonight. You know, we didn't, we sort of knew this was coming, right?
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. But the transparency that Ryan sort of brought to this position is, look, we're going to have plans, and we're going to ask people to comment on them, and so we get it. So just, it helps. It really does to participate. So no doubt about it. Thanks.
And I know you don't, it might not seem like that, but there may be a road in town that, we can do a patch on, and residents are like, this is okay, and we understand that this road
Well,
is
and
worse.
it's not about taking away from other town. Everyone in town that has a road that needs to be repaired deserves to have the road repaired.
Yeah.
but we're past the point of safety. So Dogwood North, if you drive down the road, you really can't do it without riding it like landmines. So the next road is Geordie Lane, and that road's starting to collapse. Now all the traffic is rerouting around Geordie Lane, trying to avoid the bumps, and the road's already collapsing. Several potholes just in the last several weeks.
You're not
It's
even
just,
second.
it's just gonna continue.
It is, and I've driven your road, and you're right.
Okay, good.
I just have a general question, Michelle Amati from 29th Streeter. When you guys, it sounds like the Chapter 90 money is what you have total control of, maybe timing wise and everything else. So when you sit down to make these plans, is the number of taxpayers and the number of households affected, does it factor in at all? Like, is that part of your conversation? Because I had no idea there were 70 families up there. That seems to me like, you know, pretty darn important for a town our size. And I know on Streeter Road, there's 25 families as well. Just seems like those should be, you know, we already have the big grants for the big thoroughfares and the numbered roads, but what about the little roads that are heavily populated?
So I can answer that. So in terms of our thinking, yes, the answer is yes. We consider it all, and you guys, you don't get to see the sausage. No one expects to feel bad for me, but I can tell you, Travis texts me at 5 in the morning and 10 o'clock at night saying, "What can I do? What resources can we get? Can I get this?" Like, there's no person in the town that wants to fix more roads than my DPW
I have
guy.
no doubt about that.
So
and
what I'm saying
also
is
appreciative.
balancing
There's
the-
no doubt, there's a lot of people working really hard on this. There's just no doubt about it. And I say thank you for that. I just wanna make sure the number of people affected is factored in, big time.
It is. It is
This is so
balanced.
sad to me, that, you know, roads that have, you know, dozens of families kids can't ride their bike, or like, we gotta find a way to fix that and prioritize it somehow. I mean, get it on the list.
Yeah.
Get it on the list. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just one last time. I mean, it all comes down to money, right? Is it unreasonable to float an override for add more, funds to Travis's budget? I mean, it seems like a reasonable thing to do.
I mean, just because, you know, that word's a little toxic.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
but we
Well,
have,
have you
but
ever
we
tried
have
it for roads?
Twice.
Yes.
You try it
It's
for
failed-
everything else.
It's failed twice in the last 6 years.
So
Yeah.
was it Spencer that just did one? A big one.
Big.
It was like nice, 7 million, 9 million. They just did, and it passed actually for many miles of roads in
Yeah.
town. So I guess,
I mean, it's certainly worth a try, but
Try it again.
we tried again, but
Citizens petition.
I can just tell you as a resident, I don't have a big appetite for paying for extras when we can't even drive on our streets.
Yeah.
So until we make more progress there, nothing else matters as far as I'm concerned.
Go ahead.
It's part. I'm sorry. Just
No.
should raise my hand.
What's that?
It's part of my needs assessment. As an outsider who evaluated things for a year, I can tell you there's 3 big concerns, or 4 if you want to include capital, but that's something we can kind of address better. It's the building situation in this town, the municipal buildings. It's the roads. The roads are a big problem, and there's a deficit in the operational budget, meaning that there's more expenses than we can handle, and the service demand is too high to support the gap in the space. So it's not that, in my opinion, that we don't need all of those things. It's how much the residents are willing to tolerate, because all of that combined needs to be done. They're not things that they're not a wish list. Whether you do them or not, that's up to residents, and it's my job just to point out needs. So yes, the answer is yes to all of them. It's just where does the money want to go? And it would be very expensive to do the roads, but it would be very worth it. It would help economic development. It would help bring more residents to town. It makes the town more attractive altogether. But it's cost, and it's hard to get in any municipality, so I'm not talking about Hubbardston, person who lives here to pay for someone's road over here, or to pay for an override where you don't get to see necessarily the direct cost. Schools go through that a lot, and so do buildings, because not everyone goes to buildings, so they don't see them.
Go ahead.
A couple of points, and I think you addressed some of them, but as far as like overrides being toxic, I agree, nobody wants more taxes, and it's tricky to float that in front of a town meeting. But I look at it this way, I can either pay X amount of dollars in an override that maybe last the rest of the time I live here, or every year I can put in $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 into the suspensions in my car. And this will eventually happen to every road, even though your road right now might be great. It's not gonna last that way if we don't take care of it.
And
It's
so it's,
something that the town has to address.
I mean, so
Absolutely.
we, this Hubbardston in as a whole. I mean, long before we all were on this board and Ryan was here. I mean, just didn't do anything with the roads. I mean, these roads are all cart roads, and many of you people, the people here have lived here a lot longer than we have. Well, maybe not Pat, but so I mean, they were all cart roads that had, oil dumped on it and chip asphalt and all that kind of stuff. And for decades and decades and decades, Hubbardston put it off, and the town meeting they put it off, and nobody wanted to pay for roads. And now it's coming back to bite us, where. So since 2013, Hubbardston's done a really good job getting money for roads. And we added up with all it's like $7-8 million we put in between town money, state money, federal money since 2013. We're still paying off a bond that we took out a $1.2 million bond in 2013. That was a 10-year bond, so that'll be coming due soon. Well, that'll be gone, so we can certainly use that for more road maintenance. I want to say 2012-ish, somewhere in there. There was an override, not a permanent override. It was a temporary debt exclusion override for $250,000 for road maintenance for Pinecrest. I think it was actually Walter Ducharme, the late Walter Ducharme, who put that forward, and that was defeated pretty soundly at that time.
was it, I was going to actually add to this. Well, it's not that hard in our experience sometimes because of the upwelling of support to get town meeting to give it the go, but then it's got to go to a vote. And that's where things are usually defeated. So that's the trickiest part of this, because usually you have, if this is on the warrant, everybody from your streets are at the town meeting, right? So you've got all that support and people who are in favor for it. But then when you can go to a secret ballot and vote yourself, and you actually want my taxes to go up because of their road, that's when we've had the problems.
So it's not a bad idea. I don't know realistically the history of Hubbardston if that would be. I mean, I'm thrilled that in the last couple of years the town voted that we all voted for an ambulance and to fix the roof for the library. That's fantastic. I mean, that's things the community needs. So it's just roads are expensive, and all the towns are fighting for the same pot of money to fix our roads. So
Maybe if it was presented to, not to do one particular road, but maybe to fund the road plan as presented, and it may have changes, but that way it wasn't going to one particular road.
Yeah, no, it's
You know,
worth discussing
funds-
further.
it's
There's no
worth
doubt.
it.
Half
worth
a
it.
million towards a road plan for the next 5 years or something,
Yeah.
not just $1 million
I mean,
for one project.
let's say if the town voted for $500,000 a year for 5 years, we can get a heck of a lot done,
Oh yeah,
right?
I get you. Go ahead.
Steve Femino, 9 Laurel Street. I obviously enjoy living here and everything like that, and I commend everybody thinking about their town and their roads. I'm thinking about ambulance service. I'm thinking about services. I had actually an oil truck driver come by me on Dogwood North and saying, basically I'm just thinking of services. What happens if there's an emergency or whatnot, if the ambulance had tried to go down to the road and get to somebody with a heart attack or whatnot. So that's all. I just wanted to touch base on that. I mean, you're talking something that serious like that, and so
It's
that's,
that bad.
just wanted to touch on that.
Okay.
It
No.
is
My
bad.
pictures don't do it justice, I have them, but
I know. Okay, I know you're gonna say that too. So we definitely factor public safety in.
please consider adding us to the list.
Yeah, this is not a final list. This was a
No, that's why you guys are here.
presentation.
So
So
this is what we need to hear. This is okay. Anything further on this item from anybody here or in the other room? They haven't heard yet. so. Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna close this item up for now, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna come up again. But thanks everyone for coming. If you only came for this and you wanna scoot, feel free. I'll give everyone a second to do that because it'll be milling around, and then we'll move on to our next item.
Thank you to everyone who provided feedback. This is helpful for us. Appreciate it.
good job.
Dan, to complicate everything, Robin is here too, so.
Okay, well, we'll do that.
Next.
We'll do that next. Robin?
So where should we?
Yeah, come on up, whichever seat. Whether you tend to the right or left, I guess it's up to you.
So I sent a report, it's a bunch of slides, but it's pretty much self-contained. So I was not intending to go through this whole thing. I just want to make a few comments about it, and then if there are any particular pictures or maps or information in this that you want to talk about, if there are any questions I can answer, I'd be glad to do that.
Okay.
So, the actual report about the conditions of the official markers that define the boundaries of the town of Hubbardston was just a one-page letter that I sent to you and the town clerk in January, and basically just said that of the 9 stones that mark the boundaries, the corner points so-called, there was one that was toppled down, and it has been apparently been that way for some time. It's in the water. The rest of the other 8 stones are in pretty good condition. There's one that is leaning a little bit, but I think it's not going to go down real soon. Maybe in 30 years or something.
Just so you know, in 2013, I went around to all of them as well.
Oh, okay.
With the historical commission or whatever else, they were marking the annual. You're supposed to put every 5 years.
Every 5 years.
The boundaries.
But
Yeah.
I think in many cases they did not mark or visit all of them. So anyway, so basically all of them were located, but it's much easier now with GPS. So anyway, just about doing this job, I wanted to say that I appreciate the opportunity to do this, to be appointed to do something that's fun, and I think it's important, but it's also fun to do this. You get to see a lot of places that you don't see otherwise. These markers are mostly way out there, and I've lived in Hubbardston for 35 years, and I had never stumbled upon any of these, although I walk in the woods a lot. I think there was one that I had gone by, within sight of many times. It's the one down at Berry Falls Dam on Brigham Road. It's only 90 feet from the road, but I never knew that was there. You can easily miss that if you aren't specifically looking for it, even though it's about 6.5 feet high. It's a big one. That's the biggest, the one except for the boulder on the western corner of town. So I think the only thing I want to bring up as an issue is if there is a concern about the marker in the Burnshirt River. It's the Hubbardston, Phillipston, Templeton corner. It's in the river. It may not be in quite the original place. It's hard to tell because what was the foundation of that marker is under the water. Also, I don't like the fact that the Hubbardston side of the marker is actually in the water. You can't even see the mark of the town of Hubbardston.
How big is it? Can you tell?
How big is the whole stone?
Yeah.
Well, the measurements are given. It's
that one's on there.
I estimated the weight to be about 650 pounds. So I think if you wanted to write that, you'd need some kind of construction equipment, and you'd need to put another base for that if the original base isn't in there. Maybe somebody could look under the water with a diving mask, or wait till the water is really low. I've gone down there many times since I first visited the stone, and it's always been like 2 feet of water. So there may not be a time when you can actually see the whole bottom of the riverbed there. But I think that's the main concern. It should be more of a concern even more of a concern for Templeton and Phillipston, because it actually defines the boundary for them. For us, it's just an intermediate point along the Hubbardston boundary. And I would think there is some office at the state level that probably would have a concern about that and maybe could provide some resources, but I'm not sure what that is. So, unfortunately, Phillipston and Templeton don't seem to have been doing any, boundary marker, inspections. I called them and they, Templeton said, for example, oh yeah, that would be great to do that, but they, up to this point, I don't believe they've done it for a number of years. Some of the other towns like Princeton and Rutland have done it more recently. So there are 7 other towns we share a boundary with, and so most of those, as far as I know, have not been visiting the markers. So I think Hubbardston is ahead of the game there. So that's really all I think I need to say here. If there are any slides here, if you want to look at any of those, the map of the whole set of markers is in there. The
So I have up now. Right.
and you can see that 6 of those are actual corners, and 3 of them are just intermediate points that are corners for abutting towns.
Quick story, the one over down Rutland, Prison Camp Road, is that what that's called down there?
That's Brigham Road.
No, there's one, the Rutland line, you go like past where the little.
Barry, Hubbardston, Rutland.
Barry, Hubbardston, Rutland.
You go down 68, then you take a right.
Oh.
Is that, or the one over here?
Anyway, when I went out there, it was an early Saturday morning with a little crew of us,
Yeah.
creepy, with some guide who was guiding us, like, who had lived in town for 70 years, and
Yeah.
we just had to trust that we were going to the right spot. And I ended up using that scene to scare the hell out of little kids for camping stories.
Yeah.
Like a woman was carrying a severed head through the woods and whatnot. Remember?
Oh, I remember.
There was a report of some, paranormal activity down near the prison camp by some local group a few years back.
Oh.
And so that would fit in very well with what you're talking
Tell
about.
me that.
But yes, most of these are in very out of the way places. Many of them are wet, and that's part of the reason I wanted to put this thing together as an aid to anybody who wants to visit the markers. If you have a GPS or a phone, you can just download there are various free or very inexpensive GPS apps. So smartphone will get you within 20 or 30 feet of the any of these markers very easily. There's a table that I included in here of the coordinates that you can use on your GPS. And I guess more importantly, as far as providing information for people that might want to go out there 5 years from now, 2023, the town will be up for doing this again. Whoever does that at that time, I just thought it would be useful to have the information all in one place.
Well, we thank you.
Yes.
Really appreciate you putting so much time and effort into this. Got a question
I
here?
just wanted to know, is there public access to all of these markers?
Many of them are on public land, watershed land owned by the state of Massachusetts. So there's no problem there, but a lot of these can't be accessed except through private property. And as I said in this report in multiple places, please do contact the property owners before you go across their land. Because there are a few people that have abutting parcels that don't want a lot of people going through there. And some of them, you have to go right through people's front yards. Others, they're just some, like, recreational land. They might have a camp out there, but still, just courtesy is to ask the owners. You can find out the names of the owners in the, assessors' property listings. That's all online. Also, a very good resource if you just want to quickly identify the parcel number and the owner and other information. There's something called the Massachusetts Interactive Property Map. It shows the whole state, every parcel in the whole state. It's just like taking all the assessors maps and putting them all together and integrating with the Massachusetts GIS system.
Okay.
No, thank you.
All right, thanks again.
Okay, you're very welcome.
I feel like we should clap, right?
Yeah.
Bye,
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay, new business. Let's move along. Equal access to facilities and activities grievance policy and sexual harassment and anti-discrimination policy.
This came from Open Space.
Yeah.
Open Space, right? So Open Space is looking to continue our disability planning and ADA compliance around town. One of the things that's necessary for this is a grievance policy. So the policy we have in your packet is a sample, one that is vetted and been used by other towns in order to have this grievance policy there. So this is if someone found something in town that was not ADA compliant, how would they be able to access you and grieve that issue?
Okay. And then the sexual harassment and discrimination policy.
So we are working through our human resource policies as part of our human resource function in the executive office, and we feel it's very important to update this every year and have every employee acknowledge our sexual harassment and anti-discrimination policy. So if approved tonight, we would send this to every employee and get written acknowledgement of our standings, to include some training at the next staff meeting.
Can you define employee?
Anyone paid by the town of Hubbardston.
Okay. You need anything from us?
Both of these would require your approval.
Okay, somebody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the equal access to facilities and activities grievance policy and the sexual harassment and anti-discrimination policy.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. And then you've got the union agreement.
Yes, so we met in executive session, and the board reviewed the proposed union contract with the firefighters. So they're up this year for a new 3-year renewal. We had 2 meetings, one in person and one by email, with very little disagreement. The town wanted to compensate our firefighters and professionals for their work, and the firefighters wanted to be reasonable with our town resources. We feel like we were able to accomplish both. The biggest changes in this agreement, a step was added for later service. None of our firefighters currently apply, but if they stayed with the town for a long time, they would be rewarded with a bump in pay. The COLA each year is 222, so 2% raise. In exchange for that level of parity, we offered to roll in the paramedic and EMT stipends into their base pay, which allows them for greater retirement and a slightly increased wage during overtime. So it's a benefit to the employee. We're able to better project overtime and control costs with a cost of living that is reasonable.
Yeah, so please, we've obviously been involved throughout this process, but please thank them for us on how reasonable and professional they were throughout the entire process. I think you probably agree.
I do.
Alright, so I'll make a motion to accept the union agreement with the Professional Firefighters Association, Local 4957.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
So this will next be shown in the budget article at town meeting. That will fund the first year through town meeting vote, and that essentially approves the 3-year contract. So townsfolk still have the ability to approve this contract by voting on the budget at town meeting.
We have to sign something?
We'll send it out through DocuSign. We're very fancy now.
Okay, old business, which is still new business, the Streeter Road acceptance update. So,
This update's for me first. The planning board received you referred this to the planning board for them to review in terms of our town and zoning bylaws. The planning board met about it last week. That meeting is available online. They voted to waive the requirements of the road, to allow it to be recommended back to you for your decision whether or not it's recommended at town meeting. So it's through their part of the process. The reason why I asked it be on the agenda is the next step for any road acceptance. God, I have a lot of paper.
pavement complaints.
So the public hearing would be the next step. So the main important part about the public hearing, and I'm not talking to the board necessarily, but everyone is, there needs to be the ability for anybody affected by land taking or any abutters to be able to address the issue. So to meet requirements, this has to be at a public meeting, and everyone needs to be notified at least 7 days. And to be more transparent, should be much more than that. So what I'm asking for the board, if they're ready tonight, or if we want to put it on a future agenda, is when they would like that hearing to be, and whether or not that'll coincide with any town meeting vote. So not approving tonight, you of course can always do what you want, but the actual approval process would include this public hearing, which needs some time for notice.
Yeah, I mean, well, we did what we had to do to sort of begin the process the last time we met. You know, check that box, went to planning board, that was the intent, is for having to go to them to see if they had any issues or whatnot, and clearly the way I saw it is they basically did what they did last time, but in the correct order, right? Is that fair to say it like that?
Yes, they
Okay.
felt that it was a compelling reason to waive the
Right.
requirements.
And so it theoretically, I suppose, could have ended there, and it didn't. So it's back at us, and you know, a public hearing. You know, I think is I have no problem with a public hearing. What do you guys think?
Good idea.
Okay. Go ahead.
The public hearing is required as one of the process steps.
I guess I didn't mean like that. I meant on when the public hearing would be. So that's sort of what we're here to decide, right?
Yeah.
So I guess whatever the minimum requirements for notification, which you said 7 days. I don't know. What do you think, Ryan? Have you given this thought on when to have it? Do you guys care?
He wanted more notification than
30
7
days,
days,
right?
so, yeah.
Yeah, 30 days.
So the next meeting of the selectmen is on April 1st. That's probably not enough time. Then you have a public hearing on the meeting on the 16th was canceled because of vacation. The 23rd is the public budget hearing, so you could certainly have 2 hearings that night, but that would be probably the only thing we would do that night, and then the 29th as well.
Why don't we do with the budget, the public hearing with both?
The 22nd, Monday the 22nd would be that date.
Deb?
And so your warrant closes April 1st,
We can reopen it.
just as long as there's an absolute guarantee that it would be reopened, because otherwise we're missing the deadline to get our article on the warrant. So if you choose not to have this in that time frame to get it April 1st, then we would need a guarantee from you that you would reopen it so we could get our article on the warrant.
I don't have any problem saying that we'd open the warrant. I mean, unless something weird happened at the hearing, which I can't imagine what that would be. Is that I have no problem opening the warrant.
It's also not unprecedented to put a placeholder
Sure,
on the draft
do that.
warrant.
We've done that every year.
You don't approve your warrant until the end of May, so you can put a placeholder on it, and if there was a compelling reason to take any warrant article off, you could take it off before that final vote.
Let's do that. Let's put a placeholder on the warrant then.
Sounds good. Okay.
April 22nd, so there's some work to do.
So is that the date of the meeting?
That's the date of the yeah, April 22nd will be where it's the public hearing.
For both budget as well as street and road, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think giving more notification than the minimum is a good idea with this issue. So I the more I think about it, these last 10 seconds we've been talking about it, I think it's a month. You know, that's enough. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Could we be first?
We'll flip a coin.
So I guess I just have one question, which is talking about having an update. It's been a year since we've been able to actually give any details about the road, and clearly you as a board have a lot on your plate in terms of making decisions about issues. So I would like to give a little bit of an update.
Yes.
Whether it's tonight or then, I don't know what you would prefer.
Go right ahead.
Yeah.
Just for the process, we can also put an article on at April 1st if we want to do another update, just to keep the process talked about. There's another meeting before then, and
That means they're all gonna come back on April.
Just Deb.
leave as much as possible.
I like to bring my pasta with me when I can. Makes me feel better. So thank you for giving me an opportunity. Just as a way of reminder, one of the things I wanted to show was this map, which is from 1898.
This actually shows Streeter Road going from Grimes Road to Westminster Road. So it was identified as a cart road then, but it's been in existence all this time. This is a deed from 1896 that talks about that cart road or a way to Gardner. So the road has clearly been around for 120 years. It's been a cart road, it's been a dirt road. We really want to avoid the impression, especially after the presentation just given, that this road would require a lot of money from the town if you were to take it over. That is just not going to be the case. Chapter 90 monies that you would get in addition would be just under $3,200. The cost for the town to come in and grade the road a couple times a year, which historically it did, it's about $600 every time they come. So if they did that twice a year, it's $1,200. Clearly well covered by Chapter 90 funds. Yep, you might need to bring some gravel in every once in a while, but that was not done on an annual basis in the decades that the town took care of the road. So I don't see that being a yearly cost at all. I just also wanted to point out for the board to see that, kind of like you guys said, you know, we have put our money where our mouth is too. We've come in with a plan, we've come in with a lawyer, we've been well funded for trying to get this project to happen, and we hope that you will continue to take us as seriously as you all have in the past. So I just want to show you, here's from, I think this one's 2011, was a $2,000 bill that we paid to have the road taken care of, so that it would be brought up to a standard that the DPW director would find acceptable.
2014.
Okay, 2014. This one's 2016. We paid $6,300 to have the road brought up to an acceptable standard. In 2017, this is a quote.
6,100.
At the bottom, paid $6,300. There was a little bit extra.
So the town can do it for $600, but it costs $6,300 to have a contract. Why can the town do it so much cheaper?
Well, they got a D5 dozer, 8-ton roller, dump, loader, spread 60 yards of graded base, so there's more of a operation.
Well, you have a grader, you know, $250,000 grader is more than dozer. You know, they all have hourly rates. I don't see how it can be $600, but
because
go
the
on.
hourly rate is $75.
That's what the town charges?
That is.
I mean, each equipment has a per hour price, and a grader is like $150 an hour. You got mobilization, gravel.
This is
I
what-
just don't see how it can be $600.
This is what Travis provided me with. Equipment. A grader, $54.50 an hour, and the driver, $20. So that's $75 bucks.
That's what they figured. Yeah, that's
internal figure in here.
So, and
Well,
here,
it's not making a
here's a
profit.
quote for $11,000 that we got in 2017.
Yeah, I feel
no,
like
but
it's
you still have operating costs. You know, every piece
You can
has
round it up to 100 if you want. You can round it up to 150. You can round it up to 200. It's still way less
And then at
than
the planning
11,000.
board meeting, the residents testified that they had spent thousands of dollars on gravel.
Just this past
every
year,
year.
we spent $3,300 in gravel, rocks, and 225 man-hours filling holes with wheelbarrows and shovels, and a few of the neighbors that have tractors will go out and try to smooth out the potholes.
But last year when we came by with a grader, it did a great job just in one.
Fabulous job.
Yeah.
One time it came out and it was under 6 hours of time.
I think you've seen our stance on the whole grader thing already.
Yeah.
So
I just, I'm kind of barking down the wrong. Oh, and here's another quote for $15,000. So this is a lot of money that that is being asked for a private road to spend so the public can travel our road. There was an 18-wheeler that went down our road 3 weeks ago. I mean, really?
I gave you my agenda too. It's probably the bottom
Okay,
page.
sorry. I have my own agenda. I don't need yours. Here.
No, it's fine. Thank
So
you.
he's marking his off as he goes. So we just want to avoid the impression that when you already have so much on your plate for taking care of roads, that our road is going to cost you $1 million or $500,000 or whatever people have in their minds as a perception. That we're not looking to have our road brought up to any standard. I have 7 ANR plans right here, historically from starting back in 1974, that showed that the road didn't have to be brought up to any standard, any subdivision standard. So that's been historically set as well. So we're not looking for, you know, for a ton of money to be spent to take care of the road. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
I don't think it's us you have to convince. I think it's gonna have to be the town meeting that you have to convince.
Oh, yes, and
That's
I totally agree. You know, and to get extra money in Chapter 90 funds, I know $3,000 isn't a lot, but it covers the cost of what would needed to maintain street or road, and then some. So, the one other thing that I wanted to point out, just so that you have a little bit of a heads up, this is a little bit of a, you're gonna be getting a formal plan from our surveyor, but in consideration of Mrs. Begley and Ed Ternosky, this plan is going to be revised a little bit, that will go along with a plan that they have that is registered. That they've been concerned about how this has been laid out, and so we are going to be copying the road layout as mentioned on their plan. So you'll be getting a.
So there'll be no conflict with their portion.
What, what is that change? Do you know,
It's simply moving
because
this.
we saw that plan too, but didn't really hear of what would need to get done to change it.
Yeah, so, I don't think that's here, I have it in here. So, her plan, uses, let me just get it out for you real quick. Her plan that she has registered. I have to find it. It is in here, I'm gonna get it.
Well, just tell us. I mean, is it basically just kicking
so
the road in?
Basically, we're just moving this line that's here
Yeah.
to the edge of the traveled way, because that's what her plan says, is that her property goes to the edge of the traveled way. And so this line is being moved
I see.
to the edge of the traveled way, so that there's nothing encroaching on her
Is she
property.
aware of the change on there?
She's next door.
Yeah, she's here. I wanted her to be able to see this as well, so. This is something that we had been asking her to let us know what she wanted, and she's often said that they wanna go by their surveyor's plan, and so that is going to match their surveyor plans in terms of the road layout.
Okay.
So,
But you're not moving the traveled way any further onto the other side, you're just,
right, yeah, the traveled way is what it is.
Okay.
And everybody has an easement over the traveled way, so. Any questions?
Okay,
What's the right of the width of the right of way?
Of the traveled way itself, it's 24 feet.
Just for the end or the whole road?
It does change as you go up and down the road, because that's the nature of
Oh,
a
so
gravel
is
road.
that what Zoc had laid out? They went down and marked the existing way?
Yes, that's what the traveled way is here. This dotted line is the traveled way, and then this other part that you see that's by the solid lines are basically for, you're gonna plow snow onto it and that kind of stuff. All language to be worked out with the attorneys.
It seems that the beginning and the end, two vehicles can't pass,
It's true.
So does this plan allow enough room for two vehicles to pass?
This is not, the road is never gonna change, and
So no, so two vehicles won't be able to pass?
nope. It can in some places. It can in some places. In some
Yeah.
places, you can just pull over and let somebody pass, so that you can mostly pass. But there's very few spots where you can't let two cars go by. But according to the town bylaws, it covers the width. The width only needs to be 20 feet.
And you've got that?
We have more than that.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, a question in the back?
It's no different than Grimes Road, how you didn't you narrow the road on Grimes Road? Cause sometimes you can't even
Yeah, it
pass
seems
cars
that
on that road
way, the
either.
way that it was paved.
It's the same way on Streeter Road. There's gonna be a few passes there that nobody can get on, that you have to just pull over and let somebody go by and that.
Just
You
figure it
Do
out.
the same thing on Grimes Road.
Same thing, yeah.
Their vehicle and.
Like I said, it's been like that for 120 years. It's not anything big that's being different. So.
Drive off into the side.
Yeah, true.
Anybody else have anything?
Did I forget anything? All right.
Okay.
Looks good. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
See you soon.
Okay.
And again, we'll do the same thing we did after the previous roads. If you are scooting after this item, we'll give a few minutes for. Oh, sorry, we got a comment.
Oh,
It took a minute for them.
Oh, they come. They were waiting for me to finish.
You want to clear on out, Devin? We'll have these guys come up.
Yep. Sharon, do you want me to leave this for you to see?
No, I don't need to see. Is it already morning?
Okay, that plan that they're going to go up to the traveled way, we own to the center of the way, okay? The way, like you stated about the road being only 19 to say 24 feet wide, this way does not have any buffer zone, okay? Public roads should, there's a right way. The road does not meet standards. There should be a buffer zone where there is country drainage, utilities, the snow plowing. The way the plan is drawn up there, there is no buffer zone.
Well, I think that the planning board approved it in its
They waived it.
exempted it from all of the
Yes, they did,
requirements.
but we're not concerned about any of the rest of the road. We're concerned where our property line is. We do not want to waive that it should be built correctly in front of along our property line.
Well, it's the planning board that chooses that.
Well, I'm not signing off on it.
I don't think
Okay,
you're-
we own to the center of the road.
I'd have to obviously defer to, I guess, bylaws, but I don't think you have the right to have to sign off on anything that the planning board determines.
That is our legal accessibility to our property.
I don't know what to tell you. I could say the same thing for a third time, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how else to state it. That we're here tonight to further the process, but the applicable authority when it comes to determining whether or not certain bylaws have to be enacted was already done by a different elected body. It's not us. We don't have any.
It's a private road. We own part of the road. I just don't think you can take it.
We gave you a title search, I believe. All of you got a chance to read it.
We've gotten a lot of stuff, so.
It was it was done in 2013, is that correct? Did you?
I read everything that has been given to me so far. I could tell you that. So, but there's been a lot of
What
stuff.
was your conclusion after that, reading that title search?
This the one. This was by the thorough one by the lawyer.
By Mariolis, yes.
But I mean.
What was your conclusion?
So that from if I'm recalling it correctly, he or she, sorry, I don't remember. He came up with a certain finding.
Right.
Lawyers don't always have the same findings and agree. So that is his opinion on the matter. And so I've read a million legal documents, and I always see that's how they finish up is a lawyer comes up with a finding. So I went through it all, and that was his opinion. I don't know whether or not that aligns with somebody else's lawyer's opinion or not. So that's the only way I can really answer that.
We also had a survey done the year after, and which disagrees with the present survey plan that you're using. So did you look at that plan also?
I think we just had it up here,
That's
didn't
what
we?
they're changing.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
what they're changing.
Yeah.
Okay.
To
But that survey plan agreed with the title search.
well, that survey plan is being changed to ally with coming
Well,
up to the
our
edge.
survey plan, the one that's registered, is in agreement with the title search.
I don't know how that's relevant.
Well, it's a registered plan. In other words, are you saying that they both could be wrong?
Both what?
Both the survey plan and the title search?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you had a lawyer who came up with a finding. I mean,
Well, that's what we're going by. We're going by
well, of
that
course you're going to
finding.
go by your own lawyer's findings.
Well, we also had the surveyor, you go along with that same title search.
And then.
And it's registered?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on all this, and again, from the standpoint of this board, and again, we have to speak that way. This is nothing personal about anybody in this room, but just going through the process that we have to go through, and having what was just presented to us to make the portion of the road that your property is affected by ally with the plan that you say is the correct plan.
Yes,
Seem-
but we own up to the middle of the way, okay? I don't think you can take our half of the road legally. It's up to town council to find that out.
You wanna chime in?
Right?
So at this point, we haven't engaged town council, because there hasn't been a public hearing. We don't know what the final plan is.
Well, I wanna see you're holding a public hearing is the next step. So what do you discuss at the public hearing?
So this isn't the town's plan. So this is being presented to the town, just the way a subdivision or a developer would present a plan. So this private road is being presented to the town as a public way. So it has been my stance, or recommendation to the board, that we don't spend taxpayer money until we know what the plan is, until we know what questions we're asking in order to limit the tax exposure for the town. So we still don't have the final plan. I've engaged council to try and advise the board on some procedural functions in terms of how do we do this process, but we have in no way engaged in any conversations about the plan until it's final.
Well, we have
Right now, it's still a private
Okay.
versus private discussion about how this is gonna go down. As
Yeah.
soon as the public hearing comes and the board votes to put it onto the town meeting warrant, if that's what they so choose, then the town has said this is our layout plan. So right now, it's not ours.
Well,
I'd
I-
personally like to see this situation resolved before it goes before the town, cause if this proceeds on and it gets passed, the town's gonna be liable for this legal battle. If that road is approved as is, I may be wrong, but
Can I have just one comment?
Sure.
Because the counsel to the petitioners was at our meeting a week ago. And what she said is, you can accept the layout and you're not accepting the road at that point. Then the burden's on the petitioners to go back and get right-of-way releases or easements from everybody that owns to the middle of the road. And they have to pay for that legal work and they have to come back and it has to be done. So ultimately, it will fall on the petitioners to negotiate how they're gonna get the right-of-way to the middle of the road.
Okay.
Or change the road.
And what I'm
So it
saying,
has
we're
to
just
be
not there,
resolved.
we're just not there yet,
Right.
cause the
Yeah.
public hearing.
Right.
I'm
So
just telling
and
you up
then
front, we're
when
not gonna
all of
release it.
those rights are gathered and
Could I
it's
ask why?
proper,
Because it doesn't meet standards
you
on
can
our
accept the
property.
road.
I've got all the grindings they placed on the road, on top of plantings I put it, killed a lot of them. There's no place to put the country drainage. There's, I believe if you're gonna do something, you should do it the right way. If
So-
you're gonna accept a road,
So
you don't
what-
have to have it paved, but
okay.
you should have a layout line.
So could I
you
ask
know?
what would be your suggestion if this road was coming to
And we
be a-
don't want it public. We have enough harassment as it is now. The kids take their dirt bikes, they start at one end of our property line, the other end of the property line. They're revving up the clutch and they're just dragging back and forth in front of our property.
Okay, so that it's
Okay.
not that so what I'm hearing then is there's really no conditions that you would allow your area of property to become public because you don't want it to become public.
Correct, we don't wanna cover, I don't know why, like, Bill Holman said that he said the residents had to pay for the mistakes of the town. I understand that. But we wanted to build on Streeter Road, we weren't allowed to build on Streeter Road because it wasn't public.
So
But then afterwards, everyone else was, we had to bring our road way over, and that's our property.
so
We don't
let-
have it, we don't wanna not have a buffer zone there.
So let me ask you something now. So really, the plan that's been presented by the petitioners of Streeter Road doesn't really change the road as it is now. So the road will be traveled, whether it's public or private, as is now. It's not like because it become public that there's going to be all of a sudden more traffic down there.
Well, it might be, cause Deb
Well-
says it's like 150 people a day, even though,
Okay, so the houses that are down in the Grimes Road, New Westminster, or Old Westminster, and Streeter Road, there's not going to be a building boom because this becomes public. So the amount of traffic, the amount of cars, the people, the houses, the residents that are down there are going to be the same, whether it's public or private. So the only difference that this becoming public is that you start using public tax dollars to maintain the road and everything. So I still don't understand the objection,
Well, what, did you hear all the people that were here tonight about all the roads that need to be fixed?
right?
Maybe the public roads need to be fixed first.
So, but your objection is the people who ride, whatever, I've heard a couple different things, but, you know, you don't want the people driving their dirt bikes, whatever, down there.
We want it to be built standard.
Okay.
According to standards, okay? We don't care what they do with their property.
So would you give property on either side of the traveled way to make that area a road that could become a good standard road?
We're only concerned about our side of the road.
I mean,
They can do whatever they want with their side of the road.
Your side of the
Okay.
road, you said you could.
I just want.
You want it to be built, hold on.
Yeah?
Hold on. You would like it to be built according to standards. So, to me, you're saying that it can be public if it's up to standard. So would you give?
Not necessarily, no, I might not give it, because we like it private.
Okay.
We
But-
like the road private.
But what difference does the private road make versus the public road? That's what I'm asking you. It doesn't materially change anything about the houses on that road.
It keeps it the way it is, okay? Less traffic, quiet, okay? Except
How-
for the kids on the dirt bikes.
You haven't answered my question. How does
I
making
feel I haven't answered your question.
how does making the road public
Thank you very much.
change the amount of cars that come down that road?
I have answered your question.
You haven't. How does
I
the
have.
how
Please do
does
not harass me.
I'm not. I would like
Okay.
an answer of how do you
I
think.
have just answered your question.
All you said
Mr.
was you'd like
Stoddard.
it. You would like it
Thank you, okay?
private.
This is our private property, okay?
We have a comment in the back?
Yes, the amount of traffic that goes up and down the road is just what the people live on. We have the Westminster police that come by, and we have oil trucks that come by, we have gas trucks that come by. You know, it's no different from any other road that's being traveled, whether it's private or public. The amount of people who are on the road are the ones who live there. And they have kids, which is teenagers, now they learn how to drive. So they're on the road. No different from where they ever go either. And as for the drainage in the road, Grimes Road don't have drainage either. So you have just the rain that just goes off the road and goes off the side. We have crowned it from last year when you came by, you crowned it. So the drainage goes on the side. But it's
Grimes
a
Road
good
has
road.
Grimes Road has a buffer zone though.
Okay, well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I make a comment?
Actually, I had a couple hands up before, you did that?
He can go first.
Sure, thank you.
Hi, Peter Russell, 20 Streeter. I'd like to know, because I've heard a couple of different forums, that the Board of Selectmen or the town administrator have publicly stated that under no circumstances would the town consider an eminent domain taking for any part of street or road. Is that true? Could you clarify that for me, or is there no opinion on that at all?
Never heard of it. It's news to me.
Okay. Is it reasonable to consider that eminent domain could be an action that the town would consider?
Well, so we'd have to find out through council and research all the legal reasons that sort of thing can be done, and I can't answer that. So,
As one of the selectmen stated, whether it's a public road or a private road, the use really isn't going to change of that right of way.
I think everybody really knows that.
Okay, and for 25 families to be held hostage for a half of a road, and even possibly a buffer zone by eminent domain, I think is something that the selectmen should really consider in favor of this project, okay? An eminent domain taking, because as Mrs. Beagley and Mr. Tronosky have stated multiple times, they are unwilling under any circumstances, even when asked for an answer, to give one as to why they
No,
won't
we
do it.
didn't say under any circumstances. We said we needed
Okay.
a buffer zone.
Well, we've asked you, Sharon, what do you want?
Okay.
And
So
we
I
can't
think
get an answer.
I think eminent
This has
domain
gone on quite a long
is a
time,
fair discussion.
okay,
When I think let's get to the
Just
public
leave it,
hearing
okay.
first, so we can make this an official public forum at that point, public plan.
Okay.
And I think that's a fair discussion.
Next comment, and then you're in order. Everyone's raising hands.
I just have a question probably for
a clarification. I've also heard in the past that, there's been some statements said that, if someone owns frontage on a public road and a private road, that the town would not approve a driveway on a private road if they had adequate frontage on the public road. And I just heard a comment that said that they weren't allowed to build on Streeter Road because it was private. Well, that kind of contradicts the possible fact that maybe it was because they had adequate frontage on a public road, so that's where their driveway and they had to put it there. So that is something that I guess I need clarification on, and I was wondering where I might find that.
So the town stance.
Thank you.
So the reason why this process exists is because that everybody has interests along this road. So been trying to force the process along in a manner that would allow for the most conversation possible without engaging our very expensive legal counsel until it was sure that this is going to be something that the town is entertaining. The vehicle for that is the public hearing. So I know it feels like the town is backing off, and I know that that vacuum is being filled with other comments about what the town may or may not do, but the official town stance from the staff side, because I definitely don't speak for my bosses, is that we want to move through the process to give it its fair public hearing so that it can go to the actual legislative body, which is town meeting, because they will ultimately decide this. But the process is here to vet out those issues so the town meeting doesn't turn into an absolute
Okay, so are you saying that comment or question should be used or said at the public hearing?
If that comment
The question, the house in question, which is Sharon Begley's house and Ed's, was built in what year? 1970 something?
So the real answer to the question is I have not received that comment, so I wouldn't feel comfortable addressing it at all. But if I did receive it officially, I would ask if we were going to answer it, and it would definitely be public answer.
Okay, thank you.
I'd just like to say that if it was a eminent domain, that it should probably be the same width from one end to the other, so we don't wind up with a situation where people have to pull over, like on Grimes or some of these other back roads. You want to keep it as wide as possible, and I'm not sure, but I believe it's the right-of-way is 50 feet typically. In a subdivision, I quite can't find it in the plans, but if that's the case, eminent domain 50 feet from one end to the other, and then the road can be widened, and you would have the buffer that Sharon was mentioning, so you could have widened the road. Because on that first plan you showed, it was 24 feet wide, and is that because residents on the other end don't want to give their land, or is it because the stone wall's there? Like, why not have it be the same width all the way through? I understand Sharon's end doesn't want to, but why not have the same width the whole way?
Okay, real quick though, I want to give Ed a chance, he's been patient.
Okay, just for the record, I would like to say that the plan that was submitted or is being submitted for Streeter Road, we do not agree with on our end of it. The remainder of the lots, we don't have any say about. I don't care about what happens up there. But our land, we do have a say about, and we are in disagreement with it. We have gone through a title search. We have gone and hired a surveyor, which was a registered plan. We have proven where our boundaries are. So that's what I want to be heard tonight. So everybody's in agreement with that. Hopefully, at least you can accept that part of it, and we'll go from there.
Well, where I think, as Ryan has said, we haven't engaged council to spend any money to review and see if they agree, to see whether or not the town agrees with that or not. All we've done is personally read it, but we're not making any findings on it yet.
Okay. There was also a plan submitted by ZOC in 2003, and including a section of the land. That was rejected by the city council and the previous town administrator. I believe that's on record also. That was sent out in 2013 to the residents of Streeter Road, and how they said it was in error. The plan back in 2003 was in error, and it's almost identical to the plan being presented now.
Well, all that information will be part of the package that we have town council review as we continue on with the process here. with the next step being the public hearing.
Okay.
Guys?
Everyone else, let you know that their bounds is on the side of the road, they have rocks all along the side of their, where their property is. And it's already, that's where their bounds are. So this is where we pass. But their bounds is right there where the rocks are.
That's what our surveyor put in, that's what we have stones put in. We, originally, before those stones were put in, we had reflective rods in there. Those are being taken out by some of the residents. So we went a little bit stronger with the boundaries and we put in.
Concrete bounds or whatever.
Okay.
Okay.
Boulders.
Yeah, those are the boulders.
Yes.
So it doesn't go out into the road, it's right there is their bounds.
They're along the traveled way, they do not go into the road, they're along the traveled way.
Sounds good.
That marks our.
And that marks the line that Deb is kicking
Right.
out the edge of that
That marks
road
their
too.
lane.
Okay, I get it.
Dan, I'd just like to say, the planning board did waive all the regulations here, paving and gravel and drainage. But and I know that the width was also waived because that's part of it, but it does say lane or minor street would be 50 feet. That's what's normally required. And like some of the other residents from Dogwood or whatever were complaining about potholes and kids on bicycles and they're tiptoeing on the edge.
Yeah.
Well, on Streeter, if we accept it as is, you could have that same situation 10 years, 20 years, especially if it's only accepted at 24 feet. So I really think it should be full width, at least the right of way. So in the future, it can be widened to make it a regular passable 2 cars and, there's gonna be kids and stuff. Cause we'll wind up in a situation like, Cordy or Dogwood where, it's too narrow and people be complaining down the road and want it widened.
Okay, go ahead. I got 4 of you, so 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's my understanding, and I could be wrong, that portion that he's saying should be changed. The planning board has already done that vote a year ago and again, and they voted the same way, to waive the requirements that you're wanting to now go
Yeah, I
backwards
understand that.
for.
I understand
So to me, it's not a discussion for that right now. I might be wrong, planning board, I mean, the public hearing might have a different focus. And my other, thought is that, I don't know if you've driven up it, but there is a portion of Streeter Road that has Lovewell Pond on one side and a small pond. That whole width is what, 26 feet? Well, you can't widen it to 50 feet. 'cause
No, it
you'll
would just
in
be a
the
right of
water.
way.
No,
not-
this
not
isn't widening the
necessarily
road. This
the
is just a
road.
right of way.
Okay.
Not the width of
So
the
you're
road.
not actually
Alright,
messing with anything.
Alright,
yeah.
but I guess there are other stipulations about that have been
It could stay,
discussed.
the width could stay, but you would
No,
have
it-
the right of
well,
way.
I don't wanna step on, Deb's already explained this very completely, the fact that Lovewell Pond Sporting Club, which I'm just a member, has other things that they have been talking about.
Okay, next, over there, in the black.
That's fine.
Okay, next over, was you, are you good?
I'm good.
Good?
No, just a refresher as to why we're here. You would think based on the plans that we have, the amount of time we've talked about this, the money we've spent, that we have some grand plan here in the works. And really, we're here to ask you guys to collectively grade and plow our road.
That's it.
Centrally, because we give you our tax money at a public way rate,
We know,
right? That's it.
we know.
So I know if you were approving a subdivision, I'm speaking mostly to your comments. If we were approving a new subdivision, I understand, but this road's been here for 120 years. Most of us bought houses here when it was publicly maintained. We just need some help because even though we were willing to pay for it privately for a stretch of time, the bills have gotten higher and higher. And the estimates for the town are still pretty reasonable. So that's what we want.
But I agree,
Right?
and I know you weren't
It's not
talking.
a perfect situation, and I wish everyone could be happy. But the reason we're at this state is because there's clearly a family that is very unhappy. And that's what we need you to help us with, because we can't do that.
So you know we've been going through the process, so
Yes.
I mean,
Thank
the other thing, a very important thing that we have to consider with all of this is, yes, a vote to make it a public way would essentially flick a switch, but then it makes us then potentially responsible for things that may result of us owning the road, such as the drainage issues, all that. So we're considering all those items as well, and just trying to get through what will be now step 3 or 4, I suppose, which would be the actual hearing that we have. So I
And I guess I'm
get
just
it.
pointing out that for 120 years, none of that mattered to anybody. none of those potential problems that you
Because it was
foresee.
private. If it's gonna become public, we have to consider all that now.
And these are questions that I'm sure they're gonna come up at town meeting.
Yep.
Right, I mean, that's ultimately the body that's gonna say yes or no. It doesn't matter what we vote here. I guess if we vote no to put it on the town meeting, it's not gonna go, but, that's not gonna happen. But anyway, that's ultimately who you have to answer to, is town meeting.
We're happy with that.
You know, those are the folks you're gonna have to
We have a strong
convince.
case and we're happy with that.
Cause I'm sure they're gonna say the same questions, well, what happens when this fails, when that fails, or when the
Right.
bridge fails,
Well,
or.
we wanna take care of them and we're hopeful they'll wanna help us too, so.
We're also hopeful that we can get the recommendation at the town meeting of this body. We spend a lot of time with you folks. Hopefully the finance committee, hopefully this board of selectmen can recommend to the town meeting attendees that you recommend this vote. Because most people are gonna be there for the first time hearing it, and your opinions and your recommendations carry a massive amount of weight at public hearing. Oh, I mean at town meeting.
Okay.
I
Deb?
just have one little thing that
Bookend it, please.
that I did want to share. This is what I was trying to look for before. This is you guys have seen this before. This is the Begley plan. This is the 2003 plan that the Highway Department commissioned.
Yep.
Please take note of the fact that her surveyor used this plan, which she continues to say is incorrect, to draw her registered plan with. Just saying.
Okay, I see these real-
Yeah, I would just recommend we take that in and not comment.
Yeah, sounds good. We're not coming back up. So we're going to, unless there's a massive objection, end this item now. I see no massive objections. So once again, we've still got some other business to get to, but we'll give a few minutes if people are gonna scoot. So thanks everyone for coming again.
Thank you.
for your time.
Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully this'll come to resolution soon.
I'm trying, but nothing.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you so much.
How's it looking in there, Brett?
What's that?
How's it looking in there? Is still people?
Yeah, there's a few people in there.
No, no.
Three.
Okay.
Chance still there? Or
Tell them they're welcome to come back in
Yeah,
here.
we have openings.
It's less controversy in there.
You don't have to come, but you can if you want. All right. Well, another saucy item coming up.
Yeah, so the reason why I asked this be on the agenda, the municipal building discussion. So what was given to you was a report from the architect with the options as requested from the board.
And the three options being?
Well, yeah, three plus one.
Sorry.
So it would be a municipal complex that accomplished the goal of correcting deficiencies for public safety, town hall, and the senior center. Option two would be the seniors would remain in this building with some type of plan, and then the focus would be public safety and town hall. And then third option would be public safety with some reconfiguration here of town offices. Those are the three options with the various price points. And fourth option would be to do nothing. So
Relative to a warrant article.
yes. So what I'm looking for from the board is direction on proceeding. So some options there would be that this come up for a more public hearing type debate where we can bring in some decision makers.
And designers.
And what do you mean designers?
People who actually did the calculations and did the architect.
The architect, yes.
You know, because they'll speak.
Yeah, they can come back.
Right.
And then, so the range would be more talks to placing this on making a decision and placing on the town meeting warrant. But we're running into a time frame problem if it's going to be an annual town meeting. So another option could be to extend this farther and to continue to look at it. So there's a range of options. It's just this is.
Yes.
I think it should be extended to at least the late fall, and allow a lot of participation from the town. I think multiple meetings, hearings. I don't call them hearings, not really hearings, but multiple public meetings, whether it be in the school cafeteria, just get multiple.
This is what we did wrong last time. We those who put the warrant article stuffed it in, and it wasn't a lot of information, and then it only snowballed from there. So I agree fully that we need to give it some more time.
And I would use those meetings to present three options, and I think after a couple of meetings, you're going to be pretty clear of kind of where,
Get a feeling
yeah,
of what
where the
people
sentiment
want.
lies. Whether it just be, I mean, to be honest with you, the feedback I get from people is just build a public safety building. Like that's kind of the thing that I hear. But I would love to get a bunch of people multiple times in a room who is interested to hear that. So I would put this off until the fall, at least like November. And give us through the spring and the summer to really engage the public to see what we all have as an appetite, if any.
I agree.
So just to round it off, looking for, and this doesn't have to be me asking right this second, but directing my energies and the staff energies towards what should come next. So that could be a presentation at town meeting, or a meeting before that in preparation for something like that, a open house at town meeting to discuss it. Just some type of target so that we can fill the information vacuum that's being filled by, like in any public domain.
I think
conjecture.
the more the better. I mean, if you want to have an open house meeting in May, at the school at night or the Saturday morning, I think multiple meetings, maybe one in the spring to kind of get the word out there that there's something brewing. Maybe one or two in one in the summer, a couple in the fall, just to really engage the public. And I would do it sooner than later.
With in bold and underlined, the understanding that this is not going on the annual town meeting.
Right.
Like, we're not bringing it up in May. That's the one risk you run, right? Is that people think, okay, yeah, you're having a meeting real quick, but then now it's going to go on town meeting. So either pushing it to past town meeting so that people won't have that thought, or to be very, very clear about, if we're doing it before town meeting, that it's not to get it onto this town meeting warrant.
Yeah, I personally would start the process earlier than later, because the longer you let it sit, there's more and more rumors are going to fly that something's getting built.
Sure.
I know they're flying.
Sure.
But I would start a public meeting sooner than later,
Sure.
April, May,
May's
and just
good.
make it very. I mean, we're making it very clear tonight, right? This is not going on the annual town meeting.
Yep.
There is no plan as far as what is going to be presented to the town, if any. We want to get the input from as many people as we can.
Right. So I guess I would say, to answer your question, is to look at the dates and pick maybe a couple of options for our next meeting in May, to have sort of a public presentation, the first public presentation, maybe down at the school or something, on this item.
So Ryan, when we've talked about some other issues before, usually the school cafeteria, sometimes on a Saturday morning, has been actually been well attended, and even in the evening, just people will come if it's just an open house to talk about it.
Okay. Is that enough from
Yes.
direction?
And
Okay.
we've been soliciting comments, and getting people used to the idea that they can submit comments so you can hear them. So we have these in your folders. We'll just pass them around about people's reactions to different options. So that was ranging from everything to this can be done cheaper with certain options to supporting this measure or that side of the measure. I just want to clear from the executive side of the house that we are not engaged in that session right now. We are still processing information and guiding decision-making processes moving forward.
Okay.
I think maybe some people are here to
talk about that?
I was told some people were coming to the meeting.
Oh,
so I just
yeah.
wanna make
So
sure.
this is an open item here. If anyone wants to talk about their opinion on anything they've heard, or if any questions that they have on this item, please feel free. Yeah, go ahead.
Bill Murray. I think it's a brilliant idea, maybe do poster boards at town meeting, but big sign for discussion only. And so many people attend, especially some of our fun and interesting town meetings, that how can they miss it? And, just poster boards, you don't even need somebody standing there.
Yep.
Concept plans, and it says big words. It's a great idea.
Yep. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead.
Steve Romano. I believe the last time when Greg gave the presentation of the 3 proposals, Jeff brought up the point, if the senior center's left out, what happens with that land? Because I believe Senator Brewer helped acquire that mostly for the senior center. Has that been looked into yet?
I'm sorry to jump in. The reason why we haven't asked that question is, if you haven't noticed, I'm frugal with legal. So until I was directed to get answers, I didn't want to spend that money
Alright.
yet. So I will, and I'll get a question that anybody wants me to answer, but it does cost money every time we ask, and I don't think that's a good use of taxpayer
Alright.
money until we have a direction.
So the land was actually not acquired with any funds from Senator Brewer. The land was a swap. So we swapped about 60-ish acres of town-owned wetlands for the, I forget what it is
14?
now, 12, 14, 17, whatever, how many acres it is up there, that was actually dry upland that DCR owned. So the land itself is a swap.
All right.
For clarity purposes, the point I was making was the 500,000 plus came with the idea that it had
Who's
to be
gonna build a
used
senior
for
space?
No,
senior
that-
center.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
That's not right. And other municipal purposes is in there, and we made sure that that was in there. So it was not restricted to the senior center, and that's why we always had the concept that we were going to build more than one building on that site, and that's how the well is permitted. So it, with the gift, quote-unquote gift from Senator Brewer, the grant we got from the state, said for a senior center and other municipal purposes.
So some of that, the grant was spent, I mean, I know there was a well, what else did we put?
The road.
Road we cleared, and 350,000 was the architect.
Geotech, we
Geotech,
did
right, borings.
revised septic system design. I mean, it was,
So we've actually used some of that, the design money for, the well is there, that's not gonna go bad. Even if we don't build it in for 10 years, the well is there. Here's the engineer.
you have to renew it. It does have a lifespan, and then you have to go through the whole DEP renewal process, so that needs to be revisited.
What is that
It's
well?
like a Board of Health permit.
Right, but you don't have to re-drill the well.
No, but it's very expensive to re-permit a public water supply well. So renewing it, they'll let you renew it for a period of time.
Okay, well, make sure to do that.
We'll just put a sprinkler system in for a couple of years, we'll just,
Keep it active.
keep it active.
Just send a letter.
Okay, anyone else got anything on that item?
Just one last comment from me, Mr. Chairman. The comment I'm getting a lot to me personally is from the executive side is why is this coming up again? And it's pretty obvious in bringing a new administrator that this could be tied to bringing in a new administrator. So I just wanted to address the idea that this issue has existed since 1988. It's not a new issue, and anyone you bring into my position is going to tell you that buildings are a problem.
Yeah.
Now, whether this is the answer, that's not my concern. It's whatever the residents want to do, whatever the elected officials want to do, is fine. But I wouldn't be doing my function if I didn't identify a town need, and eventually this will need to be done. So although it doesn't have to be done today, at some point, some solution is going to be had to made because buildings don't last forever.
That's what we said. Just why we could easily stick our head in the sand. Especially after what happened last year, the year before with the senior center specifically. But I think we thought it was the responsibility of us at this current time and being the positions that we're in is to not talk about it. Simple as that. So that's what we're doing. Okay, you're up. Town administrator report. And we'll pass over the appointments. Bye, guys.
All right, thank you. The first update I have for you is on the FY20 budget. So the Finance Committee met this week, meaning last week, about their budget and set the schedule as follows. They're meeting on April 4th, April 16th, and at the public budget hearing on April 22nd, they will be here to present, and then immediately after on the 25th. So they have a very robust schedule. They did not have any comments on my version of the budget. Susan Rain, the chairman, and I did attend the school public hearing. They did vote to have bring to public hearing a budget that included for us an assessment increase of 8.83%, which puts us in a $191,000 deficit from my budget. I was assured that the budget doesn't stay there, and I expressed my opposition to that idea, that we can't wait to hope that the money goes down, so we need an actual number. That's was where I left it. I'm gonna meet with the superintendent. She had a family issue, so we'll have an update on that. But we are there, and the decisions will have to be made at that point. Of
Well,
course, that's a big thing, so I'll stop here in case there's any comments.
No, yeah, I just, we could get into this forever, but I just want to know one thing, and anyone can chime in. But did a bunch of other towns vote?
No.
No.
So there was representatives from, the town administrator from Barry, who I work closely with, was there.
Yep.
And, that was it, in terms of town representation.
That's what I want to know. Okay.
Right, chapter 90 road repair, you heard that, we got our certified total of 355,135, so this is good, now we know that number, and we can start working on this year's plan. So although we gave the plan tonight, and said, that can be adjusted, I would say that sooner rather than later, we need to go ahead for FY20 so we can start bidding those projects. And that was not a change from the plan that we submitted last year for the FY20 projects, which was Morgan, I always combine the two, High Bridge, not Underbridge, and Underwood Road. So those were identified as a priority last year and would be bid, given the go-ahead as soon as possible.
Okay.
Infrastructure, I gave those updates, so I won't give them again. The culvert on 62 and going to the MPO meeting to advocate for the town center project. Travis and I are going on Wednesday. We don't expect an answer, but we're going to continue to be there. We're going through employee reviews right now, reviewing, everyone has completed a self-assessment. I've solicited board and committee feedback for those who work for committees and boards, and I'll be finalizing reviews. This doesn't come to you unless you request it, but just letting you know that we are working on self-development and improving our service levels.
Okay.
Reminding everyone that April 1st is the warrant article deadline. I do have a draft ready. You will have a draft to see at our April 1st meeting, which is in 2 weeks, believe it or not.
And then you said we got a couple of articles that were non-standard? I thought you sent an email. A couple of non-standard warrant articles were submitted? Did I dream that?
Maybe.
I hope not.
I gotta dream better.
I think it's the other way that there doesn't seem to be anything that
okay.
is nuts, but I'll check because that does sound like something I would say. Slade building. So this is just, we're looking for information about Willard Slade, just to put information up in this building about who this is dedicated to. We have a plaque, we have a newspaper article. We're looking for pictures or any biological information so we can properly denote the person who this building was named after.
Biographical information, right?
Biographical, yes. Would love to publish that both digitally and in person. And then for employee recognition, I'd like to highlight our DPW. Hoping winter is pretty close to over. We would not have a snow and ice deficit at this point for the first time in a long time. I think that is due in part to the willingness of the employees to take on a lot of the initiatives. It's also due in part to the winter too, so I don't want to go too far with this, but the employees paid careful attention to the policies and procedures we put in place, and Travis learned a ton this year about how to budget properly and put things in place, adding spinners and electronic equipment to limit salt use and timing things correctly. So I just wanted to give him a thanks for really working hard on his plan this year and executing what I thought was a pretty good service to the community.
Okay.
All around at the DPW. And then upcoming topics, town meeting draft warrant review will be at our next meeting, public budget hearing on the 22nd. The planning board and the finance committee have completed their community benchmarking presentations for a joint meeting that we're going to have. I know we talked about this a long time ago, but this will be in May if we all agree to a joint meeting. And then human resource policy updates will continue to coming at you. We'd like to complete those before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, thanks for the report.
Ryan, under chapter 90, for last year's chapter 90, we did New Westminster Road. Is there any issues with that? Is Keating done, or is there a rideability issue?
Yes.
With that?
So if people are driving over New Westminster Road, you'll notice there is some rideability issues. So Travis recognized this right away and was engaged with PJ Keating to try and come up with some type of solution, which was a tricky negotiation. For their part, they want to be done with the town. For our part, we don't want to pay for what we think is a substandard rideability. So Travis held some of the funds until We were able to have a discussion. We met probably half a dozen times, and they have agreed to do at least an inch and a half overlay over that section to increase the rideability of that at no additional cost. So we agreed to pay for everything but a contingency, with them coming out next month-ish, hopefully, if the weather
They're gonna
holds.
mill it, right?
Mill it?
I'd have to.
I thought I read that they were gonna
Yeah.
mill it.
It sounds right, but I'd have to check. I don't want to give bad info, but they're gonna
They should.
fix that part of it.
Okay, well, thanks.
So it's interesting, this article about the Slade Building here from October 1973. This building cost $153,000 to build, and the town paid for it over 5 years.
We should've
That's a
ordered
lot of
bunch
money in 1973.
Put 'em in storage.
I mean, what $150,000 40 years ago? That had to be. What is that now? That's a lot of money.
Well, so to give you an example, I just know this because I know it. My parents' house, my house I grew up in, we built it in 1976, and it was 38,000. So, I don't know, do the math. Okay, moving on.
2x3 rafters.
Yeah.
Well, it took them 2 months to build.
Yeah.
And it was temporary.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some.
Yes.
Thanks,
sensitive,
Ryan.
I think.
We have some appointments here. Lori, you want to read them to us?
Yep, so Stephanie Alice, she's looking to be on the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, which right now we didn't have any members on other than anybody, was there anybody on it just for like planning board, or was there planning board,
our
right?
planning board rep and our finance committee. rep.
Okay, yep, so then you would have another one for William Murray as the capital improvement, so we'd be filling that. Marcia Howlett, her term expires, I believe it's the end of this month, for Board of Registrars. Kristen Salerno, Animal Inspector, and Cheryl Slack, alternate Animal Inspector. They expire in April, but we're trying to get them ahead of the game and make sure we get our paperwork turned into the state.
Are these all appointments?
All appointments, yes.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the appointments as presented on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Bill, you want to bring up anything on this?
Pardon?
Sorry, we're in discussion, and I didn't know whether or not you wanted to comment on this at all.
No.
Sounds good. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thanks.
So $900,000, by the way, I just looked it up. $153,000, 1973 is $900,000 now.
Wow.
So this building was nearly $1 million to build. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
The remaining vacancies, we have one capital improvement planning committee, which could be filled by one of you if you were willing to join. Just trying to get us filled. And then the Board of Health has 2 openings, and the Housing Authority also has significant openings. But other than that, we're pretty full going into election season, so hoping to continue to engage board members in trying to help improve the town. So Board of Health, anybody out there wants to help, 2 spots. They're having trouble getting quorums to meet, so we need volunteers.
Okay. All right, so we have a wage authorization, item 8, Dennis Perrin, Police Chief.
So this one is on me. I transposed 2 numbers. Forgive me, it was a 2 and a 3.
230, I think it was 325 and he put 235, so
Okay.
So we've
I
been
found that upon searching.
paying $3 less than we should per paycheck, and didn't catch that until we were reviewing.
Okay.
So dyslexic moment.
Do we have to approve that?
Yes.
So make a motion to approve the corrected wage authorization for Dennis Barron.
Second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Got a couple of minutes. These were for, anybody open them up yet?
I did once.
I looked at it before.
All right, thanks,
Thank
Bill.
Bill.
I think we were all here.
So it looks like,
Mike came late.
See you in a minute.
So Mike
But
came
we
late
were
on
all
the
here.
22nd.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 7th, 2019.
Second the motion.
discussion, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Abstain.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 22nd, 2019.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, committee update, just 2 seconds. QEMP task force, we're gonna do quarterly now, we haven't met in a while, but we are gonna meet, on March 27th at 6 o'clock at the Educational Support Building. That will be advertised on the, QRSD website and everywhere else that they advertise that sort of stuff. And the Town Center Committee, we actually have our meeting the first time in a couple months to get an update on, Alicia's gonna give us an update on how the meeting went that she was attended, as well as we have some playground discussion of potential reconstruction of the town center
The rec field playground, there's some creative funding discussions going on here, so we got somebody coming in to talk to us about that. That is this Thursday at 7 o'clock right here.
Comment, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
You have a comment?
Oh, hi, sorry.
Hi, no problem. What's the estimated cost of completion, the EAC at the Town Center Committee? And you mentioned tonight that at the end of the rainbow, there's a $4 million pot of gold. Does the money we spend up front to sink into this get reimbursed, or is that sunk cost?
That is sunk cost. The design to get yourself onto the TIP program and to get it approved as a project with a design, you pay for all that design money.
What's your best guess on the EAC for the design?
The last amount
Estimated completion.
We're waiting for, I'm going to think this through because I get copied on emails all the time with Mass DOT and our engineer. When, I don't know if you recall this, but basically we were at a point where our 25% design, which is really like a 90% because you have to design the whole job, that's just what they call it. It went into Mass DOT review, 6 months ago. And it was getting comments. I met out there with them, but then they said, hey, you know what? We have this slot for Route 68 North, but we can't pay for all of it. You need to extend your town center project up to the rec field.
Took us
Correct.
back.
So we went through all of the redesign. We had to go and match that to the Route 68 North project that was designed by a separate engineer. So a little bit of clunkiness there, but overall we got there. Got the revised 25% design, and I think we're in like the middle of the comments from Mass DOT on that. So saying that, the next round of comments at your 75% and 100% design go a lot faster because most of the stuff is vetted out during this first original design, whereas the next few phases of it, it's not as from scratch. You just sort of you're tweaking it, I guess, more than anything, and getting public comment as well. I would say, I know Ryan, you chime in if you want, but I guess I would say estimated completion date for the design, I would say a year.
The question was, how much money?
Oh, I think another like 50 grand.
And what would the total be?
Oh, I don't have the numbers here. We'd have to look at the.
For all of the design?
Yeah.
I'd have to calculate it out, but we did 150 at town meeting last year. It's probably, conservatively 75 after that.
I think 225 is the number I remember, plus some additional balance. So somewhere
250?
Somewhere south of 300, between 250 and 300.
But we're getting what, 4 million in return?
4.3.
Dan, while Tom's here, I'd just like to ask him, Tom, did you like the mock-up for the library roof? Was it accepted?
I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
I hope everyone's seen it. It's,
Yeah, I saw it on my way
It's gonna
in.
be there throughout the job, and thanks for mentioning it.
Yeah.
It looks real nice.
It's rugged, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, this is thick copper, slate. It's a.
Library's gonna collapse.
No, it's originally built for slate, and it has super duper beams in there.
Yeah.
And I'm very, well, I got a chance, I'm gonna sell the contractor a little bit. He's really off to a good start with that. Our architect looked at that mock-up and said, I've never seen one of those before. No contractor has ever done that. And from it, the architect reviewed all the details. He had every detail in there, closed end, round things closed, and snow stops, and details are all there. And it's really helped the project, and the contractor deserves a gold star for doing that.
That's really good because I've done construction for 20 years, as I've said many times, and do a lot of projects where it's actually in the specification, which it probably is here, that you have to do a mock-up. I think I've maybe done 2 ever. They just don't really require it, so for him to do it, that's great.
It wasn't in the spec.
Oh.
He stepped forward and did it, and that's why I say he deserves recognition for doing that, and it's a clarifier. For me, anyway.
Yeah,
I'd rather look at the mock-up than try to hold the drawings up to the light.
No question.
And if you look at that, although it doesn't look like anything, I actually was with Tom because Ryan was out that week, and so we were looking at it. There's different quarry slates in there. So you look at it, and he showed the different colors of the slates on there to know that one came from New York, one came from another one, and so there is a color difference to match.
And it's used to pick them. And Titan is the contractor, and I just got to give him a compliment.
Okay, great. Okay, matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. I have none. Does anybody else, based on our meeting tonight?
No.
Or anything else? No? Okay. Public press question and answer? Chance, did he sneak out the door a while ago?
Might
Must
be
have.
sleeping
He left
in
a
the
couple
other
hours.
He did. Okay. Anybody else? Public, but no? Okay. All right, we have an executive session item in which we intend not to re-enter into open session. So, thanks for everyone who's, for coming tonight, and have a good night.
Good night, Dennis.
Thanks.
Bye, Dennis.
It's great to see you again.
Huh?
Nice.
Good night.
Good night. So I'll make a motion to enter into executive session for reason number 1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, discuss the discipline or dismissal of or complaints or charges against a public officer, staff member, or individual.
Second the motion?
Jeff? Discussion? Jeff?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Dan, yes. Mike?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Jamie, yes.
Just wait a minute.
We'll wait a minute for people to clear out.
Please excuse us.
Yeah, we're good. So we're entering at 8:57.
Out.